Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Massachusetts Teachers Association, working together to ensure that all students have the resources they need to succeed. The MTA, over 180 years of commitment to the public schools and colleges our communities deserve. massteacher.org. In the jungles of northwestern India, experience the story of a legendary tiger clan told by the man who devoted his life to keeping them alive. Watch Nature, Legendary Tigers of India, tonight at 8 on GBH2.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announces its new class of inductees. Will audiences flock to see the Michael Jackson biopic? And celebrating Jazz Appreciation Month, it's our pop culture roundtable. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, tonight at 9 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL. It's Earth Day, and with Trump's Iran war causing a lot of market uncertainty, to say the least, is there a perverse positive from all this? And you're finally taking steps to make yourself less reliant on fossil fuel. Then MIT economist Jon Gruber, a key architect of the 2006 Massachusetts healthcare reform law, joins us to mark its 20th anniversary. And Carol Rose from the ACLU of Massachusetts.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then in the second hour, criminal justice reform advocates are calling for clean slate legislation, automatic sealing of criminal records for certain people who have served their sentences. We'll talk with two leaders of the Urban League pushing for this policy. And finally, we'll end the show with you. Is our American habit of always being on the go, rushing from here to there, always in a hurry, is it killing us? Hurry up and weigh in next. BPR live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Iran has seized 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and Iranian news reports say it has attacked a third. This comes as President Trump extended a ceasefire with Iran indefinitely. In Iran, hardline supporters of the government celebrated as the possibility of peace talks dimmed. Duri Buskarin reports.
In a video released by the Associated Press, masked men in army fatigues ride what appears to be a missile launcher through the streets of Tehran, chanting "Death to America." It was a celebration of Iran's decision not to send negotiators for more peace talks with the U.S. There were also, though, small acts of defiance against the Iranian government. A young woman in the capital, Tehran, who asked not to be named due to the risk of arrest for speaking to foreign media, described hearing someone playing an accordion in an alley near her home. Buskers have been banned under the government's wartime rules. I hadn't seen any street musicians anywhere in months, she said, but last night we heard the sound of life. For NPR News, I'm Duri Buskarin in Van, Turkey.
Senate Republicans have introduced a budget resolution to fund immigration enforcement agencies. It's a first step in a lengthy process aimed at ending a record-breaking shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. NPR's Barbara Sprunt reports.
For months, congressional Democrats have said they will not fund immigration enforcement agencies unless reforms are implemented, following the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens at the hands of agents at protests earlier this year. Republicans are looking to a budget tool called reconciliation to fund DHS along party lines, bypassing the need for Democratic support. The budget resolution has an expected final price tag of about $70 billion, which should fund the agencies through President Trump's term. The president has given a deadline of June 1st for the bill's passage, but the process is long and complicated. Barbara Sprunt, NPR News, the Capitol.
The civil rights group, the Southern Poverty Law Center, has been indicted on federal fraud charges. The organization tracks hate groups. NPR's Jacqueline Diaz reports the Justice Department says an investigation into the group goes back years.
A grand jury in Alabama indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center for years of alleged fraud. The civil rights group is facing charges of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says the organization paid informants to infiltrate hate and extremist groups, and that includes groups like the KKK. Blanche said the group then used banks to hide these payments. The The Southern Poverty Law Center's interim CEO, Brian Kerr, says the group is being targeted by the Trump administration, and it plans to defend itself from the accusation. The Justice Department says the investigation into the nonprofit is ongoing. Jacqueline Diaz, NPR News.
And you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A missing hiker from West Roxbury was found dead yesterday on a trail on Franconia Notch in New Hampshire's White Mountains. Globe reports 6 other hikers from Massachusetts had been rescued from the White Mountains in the past week, and officials had warned people to be prepared for rapidly changing weather conditions. 61-year-old Kent Wood had driven to a campground in Lincoln, New Hampshire, set off for a weekend hiking trip on Saturday. According to officials, the forecast called for warm temperatures and clear skies, but that wasn't the case. 3 to 5 inches of snow had fallen between Sunday and Monday in the Franconia Notch area. His family became concerned after not hearing from him for 2 days and reported him missing. His body was found around sunset last night. And although it's still a ways off, Pride Worcester has announced the return of its annual festivals for Saturday, September 12th, setting the stage for a month of events across the city, but not before sparking debate over a scheduling conflict with a major Jewish holiday. The Worcester Guardian reports the festival, held in downtown Worcester as part of a broader state slate of programming planned throughout September, but this year's festival date coincides with Rosh Hashanah, which begins at sunset on September 11th and continues through September 13. That brought criticism from some community members who say the timing of Pride Worcester will exclude practicing Jewish participants who will be observing the high holiday. In response, Pride Worcester said it is engaged in conversations, but it looks like the dates will stick. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the University at Buffalo, where researchers are developing an AI-powered tool with the goal of accelerating drug development to treat cancer, Alzheimer's, and many more diseases. More at buffalo.edu/NPR.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here on Friday, April 28th. We're going to have a twofer on that Tuesday, actually, I should say. Tuesday. Yeah, we're back here on Friday, but on Tuesday is this twofer event, Jim.
Okay.
The governor's going to be here from 11 until noon. That's Maura Healey, of course. And the mayor will be with us from noon to 1. That, of course, is Michelle Wu. It's kind of a May Day. That's right before the May Day.
Can we start this? Is this live?
With Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys. Sorry about that. I'll try to improve.
Well, you got some right. I'm Jim Browdy and you're Mark.
That's right. It was downhill from there.
Okay, so it's Earth Day.
Earth Day.
And America is celebrating by changing absolutely nothing. And I'm talking about our leaders. We're continuing to stick our heads in the sand, drive our gas-guzzling SUVs, well, that's us, while our fearless leader carries on his sort of paused war for oil in Iran. Trump's so-called God Squad of white men are marking the occasion, this is true, by allowing for the extermination of an historic rice whale, as it's called, so they can expand oil and gas drilling in the Gulf of America. It used to be called the Gulf of Mexico, or whatever it's called now. So with war causing so much hurt, we wanted to take this Earth Day to pose a perverse question. We asked John Kerry about this a few weeks ago, and he helped start Earth Day. Is the war accelerating your personal move away from fossil fuels? Are you feeling the urgency to take the train, to walk, to switch to an EV, heat pumps, etc., even if it's only for selfish reasons? Time magazine, by the way, writes that used EV sales have spiked this year after sluggish sales last year. In Europe, they're setting all-time records for EVs, and we are increasing. We're still behind where we used to be when there were tax credits, which Trump abolished, but we are increasing since the war began. Lines are open at 877-301-8970 to call or text. And more broadly, with the administration's disastrous actions on the climate, the Supreme Court's ruling on the endangerment finding a few weeks ago, our air is more polluted than ever. Can we ever recover from the damage wrought by Trump? And is Chinese EV industry the only real winner in this war? By the way, they sold last month more EVs than Tesla did. Our number is 877-301-8970. And by the way, if people are wondering why Marjorie and I are going to be rushing out of the library at 1 o'clock, is because we're both going to the big rally for Earth Day right after the show.
What rally would that be, Jim?
Well, that's a problem. There is no big rally. There are a lot of things. Don't be offended. There are a lot of wonderful small things happening. And by the way, if you go to a website, which is earthdayboston.org, you'll find out the relatively small activities in the city, and you can Google Earth Day in your own community. But there's no big event like there used to be, for example, on the Common.
And remember that I was reading about it this morning, the 1970 first Earth Day rally, 20 million Americans protested. That dwarfs all the ones that No Kings that have been happening. 20 million, 10% of the population. In 1990, they talked about how 200 million people worldwide in 141 countries. So things have shrunken a little bit, I guess, since then. Although there are some small events. Something's going on at Boston Public Market.
I know that.
Yeah, you can go down there.
And there's something in JP. There are a lot of little things.
Something here at the library. Germothermal Networks is going to be here. Geothermal Networks.
It's not germothermal.
Geothermal.
Do you want to take the day off, by the way? I wouldn't be offended. And then try again tomorrow.
Geothermal Networks.
Sure.
A path to fossil fuel freedom.
Does anybody in the audience know about germothermal networks? Anybody can come to the mic and talk about it? Because I was unaware of it myself.
5 to 7:30 tonight. They're going to be here.
That's great.
I thought the library closed at 5.
Jamie or Zoe just typed only 2 hours to go, Marjorie.
That's right.
877-301-8970. When John Kerry, who was one of the driving forces behind the first Earth Day, I think it was 1970, right?
Yes.
Was with us. We talked to him about a couple of things when he was here a couple of weeks ago with us here in Brighton. One, about the question we're asking you, what's the impact of the Iran war on the transition away from fossil fuels? And Earth Day came up. Here's Curry.
To prevent the worst consequences of the climate crisis will be won, but the issue is will be won too late. That's the challenge now.
But the war is going to add juice to this. I remember you of the first Earth Day in 1970, obviously as a 20-something-year-old, one of the key
That was the first thing that I became involved in.
And despite all the wonderful advocacy, End of Nature with McKibben and you, this war is, I hate to use the pun, fueling essentially even an extra bump, is it not, for people who are seeing extraordinary gas prices?
Absolutely. Well, it's worse than that. Our emissions have gone up.
Our number is 877-301-8970. Did you read the story this morning? 150 million people in this country, which is, I believe, is almost half the population, are living in places where there are, quote, harmful levels of pollution.
Oh, yeah.
In the United States.
And it talks about all
the lights just went off.
The lights just went off. That's bad. I had nothing to do with that, Jim. That was not me.
This is really not going to work out.
But it talks about the terrible, asthma, terrible problems with
especially
asthma,
in cities,
with heart
especially
disease,
for poor people.
with lung problems, as well as premature death. Yeah, and it's by the way, you said that, Kerry just said that our numbers are going up. Other places are doing much better. People always criticize China, say because that's been a huge polluter just like us, that they're building more coal plants. So they may be building more coal plants, but overall their emissions fell, not by much, but
carbon
by 1%.
Emissions,
yeah, carbon dioxide emissions. India, they've fallen for the first time since the 1970s. European Union, huge. Greenhouse gas emissions fell 3% between 2023 and 2024, but the total emissions are 40% lower than 1990 levels. So as usual, I come to feel like this sometimes. We're the outlier in the whole world. The whole
world.
What do you
mean you come to feel it? We're the outlier in almost everything.
Well,
good
I know
these
it's
days.
depressing. But
did you hear what I said? By the way, I don't know if you heard that. With that company, I can't remember what it's called. The car company that makes EVs in China, I think for the first time a few months ago, surpassed the sales worldwide of Tesla.
That's the other thing, the economic advantages that we're missing out on, because China, I think they're something like 70% or 80% of the cars, of the wind farms, of the solar panels. The Chinese are, and as Bill McKibben has said, what are you laughing at now? Did I make any more mistakes?
One of our colleagues said, engineering is telling us the lights went off at the library because Marjorie forgot to pay the electric bill.
Okay.
Can I say one last thing before
part
we
of
get
my
to the
charm,
calls?
Jim.
Let me
Part of
say
my
this.
charm.
I do have an EV, and I've
You
been
do?
ridiculed because of the kind I have, but it is what it is. I have a Tesla. I interviewed heat pump people at my house, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, and I decided, even with the mass save subsidy, it was too much for me at the time to spend. I have called back almost every one of those, not every one, a few of those companies in the last 2 weeks to come back to the house to give me estimates again, primarily because of economic self-interest, because the reality is all these insane prices, as we've discussed with a lot of people, are not going to go down to what they were before February 28th when Trump started the war. They're going to go down a bit, but not enough. So I hope a lot of people, for, as I say, self-serving reasons, are deciding to investigate this stuff.
Well, the thing about heat pumps that's great is that they heat, they cool, and they dehumidify if you're in a place that needs that kind of thing. And
you and your sister have heat pumps on the Cape,
three
you
of
told
them.
me?
Three
On
of
the
them.
Cape,
Yeah, they're great. You have to get them cleaned out every couple of years.
Okay,
That's
good.
the only downside.
Let's take some calls. 877-301-8970 on Earth Day.
Irene in Ipswich, thank you for calling.
Hello, Irene.
Hi. I think I'm about a 6. Alexa, stop.
Say that again?
Shut my radio off. Shut my radio off.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's fine. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've been around since the 70s when Earth Day started. We used to do a lot of big activities for Earth Day. I worked at UMass for like 10 years, and we used to have a big Earth Day event every year, bring all the alternatives. You know, there's a lot of education. And we're going to have to bring this back because people are getting so apathetic, taking everything for granted, and we need to, get back. We have to bring back all the EPA rules that have been canceled by Trump. We're going to have so much work to do. So I'm today going to bring a trash bag with me to the beach when I walk.
That's great.
To celebrate Earth Day, but everybody can do one small piece today. And maybe all together, collectively, that amounts to a lot.
Irene, we appreciate your sentiment and your call and your work. By the way, thank you. While the federal tax credits have disappeared, Zoe is making the point, calling herself a shill for the mass EV rebate program, because it should be. It's still going strong. She got $3,500 taken off at point of sale, meaning you don't have to wait to get reimbursed when you file your taxes, when she bought a 2020 Hyundai Kona a few months ago. So the program is MOR-EV. Mass offers rebates for electric vehicles.
Well, there's been a lot of reporting about how a lot of used EVs are on sale for good prices now, and you don't have to go get your oil changed, Jim, which is a nice thing because there's no oil.
Yes, I have an EV, as I said.
That's right. You have an EV.
So I haven't changed my oil.
I have a hybrid. I don't have an EV.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's not as good as an EV.
No, it's not.
Richard from Medfield, thank you for calling.
It's incredible.
Hello.
Hi.
Go ahead, Richard. Sorry, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, about a year and a half ago, we went solar panels on the house.
Yep.
I got a EV, a really nice Hyundai Ioniq 5.
Great,
and
they're
we got
good.
a heat pump.
Wow.
At the time, I called in about that time, and Jim said that I'd have to be careful that the government didn't come and make me take the panels off my house.
Have they?
That hasn't happened yet.
Oh, good.
Yet. Okay.
Not yet.
By the way, Pam Bondi is free. That's apparently what she's going to be doing. So Richard, why did you?
Cost a whole lot.
Yeah.
Richard, why did you do all those things when you did them? What was the motivating factor?
Because we wanted to take advantage of the rebates and the tax breaks before the, who decided to rescind them. And also economically, it made a huge amount of sense.
So what are your bills like now, Richard? Are they
as compared to before?
They're negligible. Heating bills are negligible. We got slammed a bit with all the snow because then the panels don't generate anything. But since then, I track this, and it tracks very beautifully to the height of the sun above the horizon. It's science, Mr. White.
Richard, what do you do? And I assume the snow covers the panels, obviously, so they can't get the sun. So what do you do about that? Do you just have to wait, or do you get up there with a shovel on the roof, or what do you do?
We don't have a battery. We're hooked up to the grid, and when we generate more electricity than we consume, it pushes it out, and it generates us a credit.
Yeah.
And then when we're not generating enough electricity, it gives it back to us. So generally, we're breaking even.
But what about the snow, Richard? What about the snow? What do you do about that?
It melts.
Okay, so you just wait for it to melt. Okay, so you don't get up on the roof.
Wait for it to melt. I'm not getting up on the roof.
Okay.
I'm 73 years old, man.
Richard, thank you for your call and what you're doing. You know, by the way, in a New York Times story that came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, listen to this. For the first time, a renewable source, solar, speaking of Richard, was the biggest single contributor to new energy supply worldwide, accounting for more than 25%. And a wonderful point that I was going to make, but I forgot about it. Anonymous texter, I'm waiting for our legislators, we discussed this with McKibben a few months ago, to approve the plug-in solar panels. Mariano, meaning the speaker and company, should get to that about 2055. That's probably true. Europe is doing that.
Yes.
There was an NPR or a GBH story yesterday, I'm not sure, about how bills are pending. I have no idea why they haven't been approved. You don't put them on your roof. It's especially valuable for renters because obviously if there's not a solar panel, a renter's not going to pay to put one up. You just plug them in and put them on, your porch if you have one, your deck if you have one. And as McKibben said, as I said, they're in major use in Europe, but obviously we're behind the eight ball as we always are. Chuck and Brighton, welcome to the show. Hi. Chuck.
Well, I just wanted to share my experience.
Please.
And just so I never having to go to the gas station ever. It's not just money that stays in my pocket, but it's also time, which is more valuable than money. I mean, it's worse than having to drive to the gas station.
No, I agree. But what do you?
Second thing,
go ahead. So where do you charge your car? Where do you charge your car? Where I assume you're able to do other things, which is what I'm always conscious of.
Well, I mean, I live in the suburbs. I have a car station charging thing in my garage.
Oh, great! That's fabulous.
It cost like when I got it, it was like $500, I think, in total.
It's great.
But so, anyways, the second thing I just wanted to mention quick was, what I think is one of the most egregious things done by the administration and the GOP that sets us back as a superpower in America is stifling the renewable energy grid. Just a couple quick stats for you. You know, in the first half of 2025 alone, China created more renewable energy infrastructure than twice the amount of California's total capacity. Mm-hmm. Right now, their renewable grid is 1.5 times larger than the entirety of the United States grid. And then you can see, you mentioned the EVs that they're coming out with. They just announced one that they're rolling out into Europe that's going to be able to charge from 0% to 80% in 9 minutes, and it has over 500 miles per charge.
We lost you for a second. Chuck, did you say in 9 minutes? Is that what you said?
It does it in 9 minutes.
That's fabulous.
It does it in 9 minutes. That
is spectacular. Thanks for sharing all that data with us. That was great. Chuck, thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it. What are you laughing
about? AP from Worcester says, the company where I work is having a day-long Earth Day event with energy vendors, honey vendors, I don't know what that means, planting and composting events, but I'm not able to attend because I have asthma. I think they're making a joke about having asthma from growing up in a place with a lot of pollution. And somebody in the library has just talked about they'd love to buy all this stuff, but they don't have an extra $100,000 to do it. This is Kyle in the library. Is Kyle in the library still here? It doesn't cost you nearly that much. I put in a heat pump for $1,800 2 years ago, and that was a cheaper one. That was Mr. Cool. The Mitsubishi.
Did you get a rebate?
Yeah, well, I should have, but I lost the paperwork. But the Mitsubishis are more expensive. They were like $5,000, so they're not cheap. But you get it back really quickly. And I think that the used EVs are I don't know. We should ask Zoe what the used EVs cost.
Can I explain something to you, if I may?
I know, but that rebate.
No,
I know.
This is very complex. Yep. But maybe you can write it down if you want. When you lose the paperwork, you know what you do? This is incredible.
You can get
you
some
print
more.
out another
I know.
set
well,
of it,
you know,
then you fill
Jim,
it in.
You've known me a long time. These
Yeah,
kinds of things are like climbing Mount Everest for me. But anyway, so there's hope, Kyle. It's not that bad. Jackie in Seekonk, thank you for calling.
Hello, Jackie. Jackie.
Hello.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're good. Thank you. What's up?
Good. We built a house about 6 years ago, put in geothermal and solar. I haven't had an energy bill in 4 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Not a penny.
How much should that add to the cost
and
of
I have to shout out,
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to South Coast Green Light in Swansea. They did all the work, and they were great.
And how much did it cost to do that?
Yeah, how much should it add to the cost of building your house?
The geothermal turned out to be about $2,000 less than a gas heating system.
Wow.
Because of the rebates,
That's-
and it was during Biden.
Wow.
And then the solar turned out to be all in, I think it was $12,000 after all the rebates.
That's amazing. Hey, Jackie, thanks for sharing that with us. Kyle, I hope wherever you are, you're listening. 877-301-8970. Obviously, there's an upfront investment, despite the fact that she said it was cheaper. What did she say? Cheaper than installing a gas alternative? Yeah. That's pretty impressive, don't you think?
They just built an elementary school in Brookline 2 doors down from me with geothermal. The whole thing is going to be heated that way, which is pretty cool.
You know, we made light of the fact that there's not some big rally today. Is this because it's not because people don't care? It's because there's so much crap to care about with this guy.
I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, a lot of I was looking up this morning, and I don't have the definitive information, but it looked like a lot of the big rallies were on the decades, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2010. So maybe
but I would say that whether they're on the 10s or not, when you have a president who thinks this is a hoax and is destructive on every front as any president has ever been, especially on this front, you'd think that there'd be more of a...
Well, you know, some of these stories are pointing out that as soon as Trump kind of cracked down on getting rid of clean air and clean water, which is basically what he's done, the auto industry kind of followed by. Those. Remember we talked about the Ford 150s, those big. What do you call those big
pickup trucks?
Yeah, pickup trucks.
Them, yes.
That they're gone. The ones that were electrically put together. So people, the auto industry backed off.
Everybody lost their keys. Did you know that? Thank you.
877-301-8970 is the number. Rodrigo from Washington, D.C.
Hey, Rodrigo. What's
Is there
up?
a rally down there? Nation's capital?
Hey.
Yep, how's it going?
Fine,
Good.
thank you.
So I was just calling for two different topics. One about the EV batteries. I just wanted to call because on the front page of the Financial Times today, they had a news article about how CATL, which is the largest battery manufacturer in the world, based in China, has released a new battery that can drive almost 1,000 miles on one charge. So that would be from like Boston all the way down almost to Atlanta, which is pretty incredible.
Wow.
And then the other thing is that it can charge from 10% to 98% in 6.5 minutes.
Wow.
So like if that gets put into production, it would really take away people's range anxiety, which is not really a problem, but it's a problem people have when buying a car. And then the second thing I wanted to say is just the disparity there is right now in EV charging for people who live in the suburbs versus in multi-unit dwellings in the cities, especially when it comes to cost. So, for example, here in D.C., I can't charge my electric vehicle at my apartment, but there is, fortunately, a city-run charger 2 blocks away from me, so I'm pretty lucky in that sense. But the energy costs I pay for using that charger is almost twice as much as what I would charge it at home, and it's kind of the market rate for chargers around here. So I think the country and more municipalities and states have to really move legislation forward to try and increase charging capacity in the urban fabric.
Well, you know, you remember the story, Rodrigo, and I'm sorry we hadn't thought about it till you said it to get an update. Remember when in the Inflation Reduction Act there was funding, I think, for 500,000 federally funded chargers around the country, and X number of months later, 7 or 8 had been constructed, and we were told by people we respect, I'm not sure if it was Bill McKibben, that it wasn't Biden's fault. There was some other issue. I don't know if that was repealed by Trump or not, but we'll try to check by 1 o'clock and update people. Rodrigo, thanks for calling in from D.C. We appreciate it.
Okay. A gentleman who's making fun of my mispronouncing geothermal. It's germothermal. Says there are some small events we may not know about.
For germothermal?
Rallies. A skincare one against dermothermal. A hair product one against permothermal, and a skidding of animals. One's it's called Thermal.
We're going to that one.
And one against frogs called Thermal. Okay. Thank you.
Marjorie,
thank you very
up.
much for that. Okay, we have to move on. We are going to be talking up next to MIT economist Jon Gruber on the 20th anniversary of Obamacare, and also something about the Fed and a possible new chair. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Braude. This is Boston Public Radio.
When you get ready with GBH's Morning Edition, you start the day informed.
All eyes are on the Supreme Court today.
Ready for all the elements.
We have mostly sunny skies for today, a little breezy as well.
And relaxed, because you're covered on the issues that matter most.
The latest headline news concerning the CDC.
Get ready with us. GBH's Morning Edition with Mark Hers. Weekdays starting at 6 on GBH 89.7. And streaming on the GBH News app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Speakeasy Stage, presenting Swept Away. 4 New Bedford whalers must confront who they are and what they've done as they fight to survive a shipwreck, with music by the Avett Brothers. Opens April 24th. SpeakeasyStage.com.
And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, war photographer Lindsay Addario, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. BostonSpeakers.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Braude. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here this Friday. And next Tuesday, Governor's with us for the first hour here at the library. Mayor Wu is here for the second hour at the library. And Friday, as we've said, Ken Casey from the Dropkicks will be our co-host. He has booked the whole show himself, and the guests are fabulous. Joined now live at the library by Jon Gruber. Jon is the chair of MIT's Department of Economics. He's also the Ford Professor of Economics there and was instrumental in creating both the Massachusetts healthcare reform and the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And while we say that every time Jon's on, I never knew the details about how he got involved, and the story is fabulous. But before Obamacare, there was Romneycare, passed 20 years ago this month. Jon, as I said, was a key architect in that reform legislation. Here's former Governor Mitt Romney in Massachusetts last week with all the other living governors except for Charlie Baker, who I'm told had an NCAA conflict, marking the 20th anniversary of Romneycare.
The political leaders who were part of this effort came to the job to get things done, not just to see what we could do to get ourselves reelected. I remember the first time I sat down with Senate President Bob Travellini in his office. I think he said it best. He said, "Governor, the campaign is over. Now it's time to do the people's business." And that set the course of the next years.
So Jon is here in person. I don't think I've seen him in ages except on Zoom, here to help us look back at the 20 years and look forward to the challenges ahead. Jon, it's great to see you. And congratulations, by the way.
And congratulations. And to think about what a big deal this was at the time, and still is a big deal now with the crisis with Obamacare. But anyway, why did this all start here with Romneycare? Why did it happen?
You know, it's a good question. I've been reflecting on that as I look at the history, and there's really 4 key reasons why it happened here in Massachusetts. The first is this is a state with a history of commitment to healthcare reform. You remember Governor Dukakis led the charge in the 1980s. Bill Weld made moves in the 1990s. The second is that we had a broken state insurance market. So Bill Weld had a well-meaning reform in the 1990s where he said insurers could no longer discriminate against the sick. They couldn't charge sick more than healthy. Well, that's how the insurers made their money. So they said, great, we're leaving. And the insurance market collapsed. The third thing was we had a financial time bomb. Now, every state, every hospital in the country delivers what's called uncompensated care, care to the uninsured. And the way they pay for it is by raising our bills as the privately insured. Massachusetts had replaced that. They said instead we're going to make a tax. All hospitals are going to pay into an uncompensated care pool. And when you treat an uninsured person as a hospital, you'll take money out of that pool.
Why did we choose the honest route rather than slipping into the bills like so many other places were doing?
It was part of the Dukakis reform.
Oh, it was.
So we had that. But this pool was half financed by the feds. Because we had a very important and powerful senator named Ted Kennedy, he'd managed to set things up so the feds paid half the cost of our treating the uninsured. That was about $375 million. And the feds wanted it back. They said, why are we giving this blue state this money? This was George Bush. Why are we giving the blue states this money? Now, the fourth thing was we had a governor who believed it was immoral that healthy folks could avoid buying insurance and then just go to this tax finance pool whenever they needed care.
What do you call them? Free riders?
He called them free riders.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He thought it was immoral. And it wasn't about economics for him, it was about morality. Mm-hmm. So the Romney administration went to the Bush administration and said, tell you what, instead of taking that $375 million back, how about you let us keep it if we can rededicate it to a newer insurance plan? And the Bush administration said, sure, you have to do it by date X. So there was a financial time bomb. We're going to lose $375 million if we didn't do something. But now we had to come up with a plan, and that's where I came in. So basically, Romney had an outline in mind. He wanted to get everyone covered, but he did not want to raise taxes. We're spending about $750 million on this uncompensated care pool, half Fed, half us. And he said, I want to do it within that budget. What can we do within that budget? And so basically, he needed a way to assess if he could do that. And I, at the time, had been working with the state. A woman named Amy Lishko had brought me in to work with the state to develop a computer, what's called a microsimulation model, sort of a model of how, when you change healthcare policy in a state, how it would affect coverage and how it would affect costs. So I used that model to come up with a plan that had two key features.
Wait a second. Why did he even know? How did he know about you? Through this woman? Or
Yeah. So basically, do you guys remember long ago there was a brief window in America we had a surplus under Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
And during that period, the government put out grants to states to develop plans to get to universal coverage. And Massachusetts helped me devise, this was theoretical at that point, helped me to devise their plan. And that plan became sort of the basis of part of what Romney was thinking about. So basically, I had to bring a model that brought in two features, the individual mandate, which was a Republican idea. This is a conservative idea pushed by the Heritage Foundation, and subsidies to make health insurance affordable. And so while the governor liked to talk about that mandate on moral grounds, I basically made the economic case, basically showing that by mandating people to bring insurance in, we get the healthy people in the pool, and that would bring premiums down, making it affordable for government to subsidize coverage.
Can you state the obvious, by the way, why bringing healthy people into the pool? Explain the value.
Yeah, so no, this is important. So basically, if you just, without the mandate, if you just say, look, here's health insurance for people, then everyone who's sick is going to rush in the door. Healthy people will say, well, maybe I'll wait till I'm sick. Because remember, in Massachusetts, you can't discriminate against the sick. And so as a result, the average cost is very high. If you mandate and bring everyone in, then the healthy people come in, they cost less, you bring the price down, and you create a fair deal for the insurers. You say, look, insurers, you can't discriminate, but we're going to make sure everyone buys. So you know the typical person's buying, you can set a fair price, you make a little profit, everybody's better off.
Was Romney suspicious of you?
Romney was, I don't know. But I'll tell you, we had an amazing meeting when we presented the results of this modeling. We went to his office, and let me just say, he's the most physically beautiful person I'd ever met.
Oh, my God. That's so true.
He was so, even at 79 the other day, he looked amazing.
You can hardly talk to him. It's so distracting.
He was so well-spoken, so kind, so thoughtful, and his political advisors didn't want to do it. His political advisors in the room said, don't do this. He said, we're doing it. It's the right thing to do. Very similar to what President Obama said years later, about 5 years later, when his political advisors didn't want to push the ACA across the finish line. He said, we're doing it. It's the right thing to do. And Romney did it, and he really deserves that credit. But then he had a proposal that went to the legislature. At that point, I then went and worked with the legislature to help them sort of turn Romney's ideas into a law. And, you know, a lot of credit goes to legislative leaders. A lot of credit goes to our incredible advocacy community here in Massachusetts. People like John McDonough, who
we
for
saw
years...
John with his grandchild here right before the show.
Yeah. So these are people who for years had advocated a very different approach, an employer mandate. And the progressive left really didn't like the individual mandate. Remember, this is a conservative idea. So the fact that these folks were willing to say, look, let's put our...
Because they wanted single payer,
They
right?
wanted single payer, or if not single payer, they wanted an employer mandate.
Yeah.
It is very hard to get people off their ideas. It's very hard to get people to say, no, my idea, I'm happy to move to a new idea if it gets me to the same goal. John and others are willing to do that, and they deserve a huge amount of credit for that. So then the legislature passes this law, but the law is actually incredibly vague. Okay, so the law says things like there should be an individual mandate only for people who can afford insurance, and we're not going to define what affordability means. There should be a minimum package of benefits, and we're not going to define what that is. So instead, they set up what's called the Connector Board that had 10 members, and I was one of them. And the great Dolores Mitchell, who ran the GIC for many years and was on the board, said
that was the covers state employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It covered the state employees. She said she likened it to 10 people who didn't know each other getting on a bus ride where they knew where they wanted to go, but they had no idea how they were going to get there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And it was a really amazing experience, and it was hard because let's take this affordability standard. Now here's, I like to give away the secrets of economics when I'm with you guys. Here's another secret. Affordability has no meaning in economics. Affordability is a feeling, not a mechanical rule. So how do you legislate a feeling?
Yeah, it's a great point, though.
And benefits, no state had ever tried to say what is an essential package of benefits before. It'd never been done. So we had to do these things, and basically what did we do? We did two things. One is we brought data to bear. I had my smart students at MIT do a bunch of math to try to bring this together.
Yeah, students, right? They got involved.
Yeah, and then we also involved stakeholders. And the great Nancy Turnbull, who was running Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation at that point and was later and still is on the Connector Board, she put together meetings of stakeholders where we heard different opinions. And we put this together and came up with a plan that set affordability standards so that virtually everyone in Massachusetts could afford insurance while setting up a very comprehensive, the most comprehensive package of benefits ever put into law. And the result was great. We had, within 3 years, we're covering 2/3 of the uninsured in Massachusetts. Our uninsurance rate was down to 3%. It was always a popular law. Public support was never below 60%. And we fixed this broken insurance market. And it was so good that then other states want to do this. And my favorite memory of that time was one of those states was California. Now, I'm a child of the 1980s, so getting to meet Governor Schwarzenegger was a real thrill to get to go out there and talk. And it was great because in the anteroom before you meet him, he has the sword from Conan the Barbarian. So I got to hold the sword, and then you go meet him.
How pathetic.
And it's like he said, we will get insurance for all the people of California. It really is sort of amazing, like interacting with this person. But it turned out no other state could do it because they didn't have this financial time bomb like we did. They didn't have this extra piece. They hadn't already. Had this hidden tax with this raising prices of the insured, not this explicit tax. So it's a fascinating piece of political history that Dukakis, by making this tax explicit, actually set the stage for being able to afford health care reform. Other states couldn't. And that's why it had to be done federally, and that's why it became the model for the Affordable Care Act.
How did you connect with Obama? And is he the second most beautiful person you've ever seen?
He's so far ahead.
Oh, okay. Obama's pretty good looking.
The first time I met Obama, though, he was still smoking. He had to take smoke breaks every 15 minutes.
That's great.
So I had worked in the Clinton administration. So I knew, and Obama, to his credit, did not have a lot of Clinton veterans in his campaign because Hillary had them. And to his credit, and one reason I was worried about Obama getting the nomination was I knew those Hillary people. I knew they were really good. And Obama, to his credit, brought them in right away and said, look, I've got the nomination now. Let's bring them in. And once again, during the campaign, Obama had opposed the Massachusetts plan. He'd explicitly campaigned against the individual mandate. And he brought them in, and he said, okay, I'm convinced the individual mandate's the way to go. Let's develop that plan. They knew me. They said, okay, you've got this model. Let's use the model for the national plan. So I helped work with the Obama administration to kind of figure out if we could afford it, and then I worked with Congress to help develop the law.
We all remember one of the most dramatic moments I've ever seen on television from Capitol Hill is when the millionth effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act was one vote away from repeal, and no one knew who John McCain was going to vote, and he walked in and he went like this, and the place erupted, and it was defeated. What do you see as the greatest threat in 2026? Because they don't talk that much about repeal like they used to.
Repeal's over, I think, which is good. I mean, it's fascinating, right? The Affordable Care Act, while a policy success, within 2 years, we had covered 45% of the uninsured in America. I mean, it was an amazing, and let's not forget the most important contribution. I can't emphasize this enough. We are no longer a nation where people are one bad gene or one bad
Yeah.
traffic accident away from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Okay, we ended discrimination in insurance markets. That cannot be emphasized enough. But it's a political disaster. Okay, it was underwater public opinion, cost the Democrats the Congress, cost the Democrats in many ways the presidency. But funny thing, by the time their appeal votes came around, people had started seeing the benefits from the
Yeah,
law,
of course.
and they started liking it, and popularity started rising. It's now about 60% popular law. So I think the law itself is not going away. I think what the threat comes from the fact that it turns out laws are only as effective as they're implemented. And during Trump 1, he failed to repeal but succeeded at weakening the implementation of the law. And probably about 4 million people lost health insurance as a result. Biden comes in, strengthens the implementation of the law, including making these subsidies to buy insurance more generous. About 8 million people gained health insurance. Now Trump has come in. He's ended those subsidies. We've talked about that before. He's ended those subsidies, and he's weakening the law again. I think that it's really going to be this sort of ramping up and down as we see different administrations. Honestly, the truth is the much bigger threat under Trump is to Medicaid. Yeah. I think he's going to weaken the ACA. I think that's going to millions of people lose insurance, but Medicaid, it could be tens of millions of people.
One last thing about Romney, and again, congratulations to him. He, at the event with all the governors the other day, he said, without Romneycare, I don't think we would have had Obamacare, which is a beautiful thing to say, but none of the stories mentioned when he ran for president, he ran to repeal and replace Obamacare. How'd that strike you when it happened in, I think, 2012?
Well, 2008 he started. By 2008 he was already backing off. Yeah. And I made a commitment I would never say anything bad about the guy about it because I thought he was a hero of it. 2012, it bothered me enough that when I was on TV defending the law, I had the wonderful ability to speak the truth and also get my point across, which is I would just say he's the hero of healthcare reform, which he was. And he hated hearing it. At one point, he then went on Fox and said he'd never heard of me. And
is
then,
that true?
And then I got to go on MSNBC and hold the picture he'd signed for me at the bill sign.
That is fabulous.
Look, to his credit, I think we on the board implemented a more generous law than he would have wanted. I want to give Romney credit. If he'd stayed governor, if he had his way, the Romneycare would be less generous than it is today. People get less subsidies, the insurance would be less generous. So but I think that's sort of second order compared to the overall gains of the law.
I totally agree.
Hey,
John, congratulations
Yeah, congratulations.
on the anniversary. It's really great story.
It's really great to have been part of this whole thing. And
Thank
the
you so
architect
much.
of this whole thing. Millions of people helped out. We've been speaking with Jon Gruber, chair of MIT's Department of Economics, where he's also the Ford Professor of Economics, instrumental in creating both the Massachusetts Health Care Reform and the Affordable Care Act. Thank you again, John, for coming in.
Pleasure.
Coming up,
Great to
after this
see
quick
you.
break, the ACLU of Massachusetts, Carol Rose, joins us to talk about their fight against the Trump administration, to get our unredacted voter rolls and more. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Tune into The Culture Show for daily discourse on the arts and culture scene, and join us for what is a continuous conversation about the state of the arts with the most interesting thinkers, innovators, and creators in the region and beyond. From the poets to the painters to the power brokers who hold the purse strings. It's all here on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, offering the full range of Velux Skylight products, installation, and maintenance services to customers from Boston to Portland and surrounding areas. More information at mmskylights.com. And Framingham State University, where students learn to examine evidence and challenge assumptions. In a world of noise, truth takes discipline. Framingham State University. Live to the truth. Learn more at framingham.edu.
Welcome back to BPR, GBH, and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Obviously, we are back here Friday. Governor and the mayor are both here next Tuesday, and Ken Casey's our co-host next Friday. Joined out live at the library by a woman who's going to tell us, Marjorie, who she thinks is the best-looking member of the Supreme Court. That'd be Carol Rose, Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Hey there, Carol.
It's great to be here. Hi, everyone.
But that was one of the jokes about Mitt Romney. This is how you look if you never had coffee, or you never had Coca-Cola, you never smoked a cigarette, you never drank.
No caffeine.
No caffeine.
Oh, well, too late for me.
But I think there was something else going on there,
Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Ketanji Brown Jackson. Okay, so tell us what's going on, the latest effort by President Trump to block mail-in voting.
Right. So there's an executive order that he issued, one of many that he's issued, and that the ACLU has challenged, that would, among other things, require the Department of Homeland Security to build and give each state a list of the citizens that they vote. They want our voter rolls, basically. It would also prevent mail-in voting. It would also, all these things are just blatantly unconstitutional. And the good news is that when we've tried to fight back against this, we're winning. So earlier this month, on April 9th, I think it was, Judge Sorokin here, a federal district court judge, dismissed a Department of Justice lawsuit that was seeking the unredacted voter rolls here in Massachusetts, which would have given the Trump administration our names, our social security numbers, our addresses, all the private information about us. And this is now, there are 5 states now that have fought this, and in all 5 states we've won. There are still a couple other dozen states that haven't fought, and some states have actually turned this over voluntarily. But it's really problematic. Red states have turned it over voluntarily. And this is really a pretty blatant effort to manipulate the vote come November. And so that's why it's so important that all of us fight back. So we're in there fighting with Common Cause and League of Women Voters and other groups to make sure that they aren't allowed to do this.
Well, when you say aren't allowed, if the ruling's been they're not allowed to do it, or a state can't be forced to do it. And the reason I'm asking that question is, while it's good in the challenging states that they're not complying, like us with Bill Galvin, for the states that are voluntarily, in quotes, putting, because they do anything Trump wants, sending them the information, do they have the power, despite the court rulings, to comply with the second half, which is once Trump pares down the list, connecting it to, quote, citizenship, only those people who they say can vote? If the states want to.
So states control elections.
So if they want to, they can.
Yeah. There should be challenges. There might be challenges to that in the red states, but mostly because we're the ACLU of Massachusetts, we've been focusing on efforts. And we have to say our Secretary of State here and the Attorney General here fought back. And so the ACLU intervened to join the lawsuit on behalf of the defendants to make sure that it was struck down. But it was also our Secretary of State, Bill Galvin. He refused, and that's
But the
really
point I'm trying to make is, if there's a red-led state, let's say Governor Abbott in Texas, despite the fact that it's a red state and they think that Tallarico has this chance of being a Democratic senator, but put that aside, they're Democratic members of Congress, for example. If Abbott decides to comply, those Democratic members of Congress who are running for re-election, or Democratic candidates, have a far harder job if he decides to voluntarily comply.
Right. The states have the ability to voluntarily comply. So it's bad. But it's just one of many things that they're doing to try to upset the vote. And it's I just want to say, people should know, it's time to be involved. If you aren't already involved in fighting for democracy, I urge you to show up. Become a poll worker, or join a nonpartisan like the ACLU. We send election monitors around, and it's happening throughout the country, and there's really an opportunity for people to get involved to make sure that our democracy survives this midterm.
Why would this not go to the Supreme Court?
It might go to the Supreme Court.
Might go to the Supreme Court.
It might go to the Supreme Court, but every time it's been challenged, we've won.
Okay, but Jim was just pointing out that case in Texas, which could really be damaging. And it's April of, the elections are in November. Can we really change the mail-in ballots at this point?
Well, on the mail-in ballots, just this week, the ACLU sued on efforts to say that you can't have mail-in ballots, or that the mail-in ballots can't be counted after a certain time. So every step of the way, we're suing them and trying to slow them down, and hopefully prevent them from corrupting our elections.
Speaking of Trump, before we get back to Quincy and a case we've talked to you about a lot, but I know it has a Supreme Judicial Court argument on May 6th, which, by the way, is the same day the auditor is before the Supreme Court with the Attorney General discussing
be a crowded
the
courtroom.
audit issue. I read a story in the New York Times yesterday that really ranks, I'd say, in the top 2 or 3 cruelty index for Donald Trump. We've talked about these people before. These are people from Afghanistan who risked their lives and their family's life to support our troops when we were in Afghanistan.
That's right.
They're now in a third country trying to figure out what their ultimate determination is. And yesterday, the New York Times reports the Trump administration intends to give them two options. One is to go back to Afghanistan and likely be killed by the Taliban because they collaborated with the hated Americans, or go to the country that arguably has the worst humanitarian crisis on the planet, the Congo.
Right.
Is there a civil liberties issue for these people, these translators and others?
Yeah, and we've actually been trying to fight this in court.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, here
I
in
didn't know that.
Massachusetts.
What are you doing?
Well, we filed a lawsuit trying to say that these people have a due process right to come here. So about 190,000 people have already come to the United States, and they've been fully vetted and all these things. But there are about 1,000 people who still haven't gotten over here. I think they're being held in...
It's not Dubai. I'll look it up in a second.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what country
anyway,
it is.
and they're sort of being held over. And this is such a betrayal. This is a betrayal of our military. This is a betrayal of these people who helped our military. Why would anyone ever help the United States in a foreign country in the future if they know that we're going to abandon them? They risk their lives. They risk the lives of their families to help us. And now we're saying we're going to send them to the Congo?
They're in Qatar, by the way. Qatar is
and imagine how the soldiers feel who made those promises to those Afghanis when they were there.
Right.
I mean, they feel like they totally screwed them.
Well, they did. And it's not only deeply morally offensive and unpatriotic, but it's stupid because literally, as you said, Jim, no one's going to ever want to work with our military again if we have a reputation for abandoning the people who help us in our time of need.
And again, there's nothing to be done about this. If he wants to do it, he can do it.
We're trying to challenge it.
But right now they're in Qatar, and they might end up.
Yeah. So we'll go to court. We'll try to challenge it, and we'll see what happens. But at this point, it's pretty challenging because immigration laws, because they're overseas right now, the State Department has an awful lot of power, and the courts are pretty deferential.
By the way, a ton of those people are kids, for whatever it's worth. There's kids.
Think about 400 children.
Out of the 1,100 or whatever it is. Okay, back to Massachusetts. We've talked about this case before, but if people don't remember, can you tell us about the religious statute? Well, you tell us the story about what happened in Quincy and why this case matters so much.
Right. So this case really does matter, and we've joked about it, but it's actually a really serious case. So in Quincy, Massachusetts, the mayor secretly, without going to the city council or anybody else, decided that he was going to allocate $1,850,000 to build two 10-foot bronze statues, one of St. Michael and one of St. Florian, and put them up on the front of the new public safety building, which has also cost millions of dollars. And I have to say, it was the Quincy Patriot Ledger who broke the story about this. So yay for local journalism, right? Why we need local journalists.
Well, it'd be hard to miss there if they do arrive.
Well, yeah, but this was before they
before they arrived, right?
So the ACLU of Massachusetts, along with Americans United for Separation of Church and State and Freedom from Religion Foundation and local Quincy taxpayers, filed a lawsuit to say this violates the separation of church and state because it explicitly affirms that you should be Catholic. So if you want to go into the public safety building to get anything done, you have to walk by these huge bronze statues.
You have to bring your rosary beads,
Catholic
stick it in.
And it's interesting because we filed this under the Massachusetts State Constitution, the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. Because it really is clear. It says, all religious sects and denominations shall be equally under the protection of the law, and no subordination of any one sector or denomination shall ever be established by law. So you can imagine that it would be incredibly intimidating for someone to go in there. And our clients, by the way, include Catholics as well as non-Catholics and non-believers who want to be able to go into the public safety building and not feel as though their tax dollars have been secretly spent to put up Catholic statues on either side of the public safety building, on the entrance.
So can I be my usual negative self, because you're the most positive guest we have on the show, so we can do a little balance here. Assuming, even if you were to win at the SJC, it's pretty clear to me that this Supreme Court has decided religion trumps every other right in the Constitution. Nothing matters. If it's religion and First Amendment religion and any other amendment or any other right, religion prevails. At the end of the day, if Mayor Koch, is that how you Mayor Koch decides this goes to take this to the Supreme Court regardless of what the SJC does, the likelihood is they'll prevail, won't it?
Well, I don't know because we didn't bring it under the U.S. Constitution. We brought it under the Massachusetts Constitution. So I think that the court may be more deferential to the reading of our courts on our Massachusetts. I mean, they can still take it there, and they can still try to appeal it. And they've brought in, by the way, the Beckett Fund, which is an out-of-state far-right religious organization, to do the arguments going forward. And I think it's just really important for people to know that it matters when the government gets involved in religion. Because if the government is endorsing your religion, or let's say they're endorsing my religion, then they're not endorsing yours. And so the problem is that when government chooses one religion over all other religions or all other beliefs, then that makes everybody else feel like they're not part of America.
Do you think the average American subscribes to that notion in 2026?
I can't help but think people think this is ridiculous. 2 10-foot statues of Catholic saints in front of the
I'm not talking about in Quincy
building?
in this thing. I'm talking about in general. Do you think that, that people feel that way?
Yeah, no, I really think people do care about it.
I hope you're right. I don't know.
You know, and by the way, we also had a ruling in the Fifth Circuit, which is like Louisiana, Texas, yesterday that came down that upheld the requirement down there that they have to put up the 10 Commandments in every classroom.
Yeah, I know that.
And things like that. So I think people are fighting back. I mean, that's why we're in court. We're fighting back. And if people do care about it, they should get involved and take an action and show up and fight for this stuff because it matters if we show up.
Show up where?
They can show up at their town meeting. They can show up at their school board meeting. They can join the ACLU action team, aclum.org. They can show up for their neighbors. They can show up. I mean, there's so many ways to show up. And showing up is what really makes a difference if we're going to push back on this authoritarian backsliding.
Speaking of authoritarian, could we go back to the first topic, the voting issue that Marjorie broached with you? And Marjorie is obsessed, and we all should be obsessed, with the potential for cheating here. What happens when the worst plans of the Trump administration to interfere with a fair election are ones that are not plotted out publicly over a long period of time? Obviously, to mess with voting rolls, you need to get the voting rolls, so they had to do that in advance. What happens when it's announced 48 hours before November's election that, as Marjorie has mentioned a million times, ICE is going to be at polls in certain places where Trump says huge numbers of what does he call them? Illegal aliens, whatever he calls them, have voted in this district, even though it's a lie. So we're going to send them there. And a whole other host of things to intimidate people into not voting on Election Day. What happens? I mean,
well, first of all, we need to take steps to try to prevent that from happening. And
how do you prevent that prospectively?
One way to do that is to do election monitoring. So we'll have nonpartisan election monitors, ordinary people who get trained by the ACLU, who are going to be at the polls and make sure that people's rights aren't violated. And we'll report those things, to the authorities if we can. I mean, it's a bigger problem when you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
But that's one thing they can do is to get involved. And the second thing is if that happens, the ACLU obviously will go to court. And the third thing that has to happen is people have to take to the streets. And, we just had the third No Kings. We had 8 million people, more than 115 cities and towns in Massachusetts had No Kings rallies. And, researchers have shown that if, 3.5%?
3.5%. Explain that to people.
So Professor Harvey Kertzman has shown, and has studied all these authoritarian regimes. And if there's democratic backsliding and people don't show up, we just think that the courts will solve it or something. They tend to fail. Democracy tends to fall. If 3.5% of the population, which would be 12 million people, show up, democracy can be saved. And we're at 8 million already. So I just think I want to say to people, again, just show up. When people say, what does it matter if there's a rally? I will tell you, as I used to be a foreign correspondent, and I would be in places where you couldn't show up. If you went out onto the streets, you couldn't show up. So exercise your right. Democracy is a muscle. I say this every time I'm here. And the more you flex it, the stronger it gets. And if we stand together, if we march together, if we demand democracy together, I think we will overcome.
But that 3.5%, and I subscribe to the notion based upon the research I've read, can't go home for 5 months and then come back and do it again. They have to be relentless and stay. And staying power, I think you would agree, is not exactly a quality that Americans have quite mastered
and nobody
yet.
Can do it all, but everybody can do something. And if each of us does something, I think we will actually turn the tide.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Returning the tide. Well, I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious of the 3.5 thing. I think a lot of it was before social media, and people thought they were protesting on Twitter.
Yeah. But you know what, Marjorie, the most thing, that hope is a political act.
Yep.
Despair is one of the things that totalitarian regimes use. They want us to despair. They want us to think there's nothing we can do. And that's not true. There's so much that we can do. Even the smallest thing. Call your legislator. Call your member of Congress. Listen to Jim and Marjorie on the radio.
Well, I would not do that if you want to be optimistic about the future.
You have to be like the Hungarians.
I would not
right?
listen to
the Hungarians.
Look what happened. They got rid of
They
Orban.
get out there. They get rid of Orban. So if the
Exactly.
Hungarians can do it,
then so
you
can
think
we.
the
That
United
should be your
States of
bumper
America can do
sticker.
it. Yeah.
If the Hungarians can do it,
Why can't we?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Carol Rose, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our next guest, by the way, do you think your former coworker would ever make anything of himself, or what do you think?
One of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carol
Good to
Rose
see you,
is
Carol.
Executive Director of the ACLU of Massachusetts. Carol, thank you very much. We say goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM, but make sure to tune into the fabulous 413. They start at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to keep going here in Boston after this quick break. We're going to talk with Carol Rose's favorite person, that would be Rahsaan Hall, and we're going to talk with him and other people about what's known as this clean slating kind of deal, where people that have a criminal record, they know how hard it is to get housing, a job, and generally just re-enter society. We're going to speak with leaders of the Urban League, an organization pushing for this legislation, automatic criminal record sealing. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
On April 28th, GBH invites you for a special look into the untold origin story of Frankenstein. Hear from award-winning novelist Emily Franklin as she unpacks her evocative new novel, Love and Other Monsters. Tickets at gbh.org/events.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz. Their signature double clam chowder is available for purchase at all Market Basket locations. More at rogersfishcompany.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here again on Friday. And then on April 28th, that's a Tuesday, we have a twofer. We're going to have the governor, Maura Healey, is going to be with us from 11 to noon. And then the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be here with us from noon to 1. And then the real big one is May 1st, May Day. We have a special show featuring Ken Casey, who is from the Dropkick Murphys. And of course, the Dropkick Murphys were at the big No Kings rally, the second one they had. And the gentleman who's with us knows a little bit about that because he was kind of the MC at the whole thing.
And by the way, he's not just a guest, Ken K. He's going to co-host the show with us.
Going to co-host the show.
And he's booked it. Joined out live at the library desk by Rahsaan Hall, President and CEO of the Urban League of Massachusetts. Rahsaan, it's great to see you.
Great to be back.
And joining us on Zoom is Marc Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League, a former Louisiana State Senator and former mayor of one of the greatest cities on the planet, New Orleans, to discuss their advocacy for what's known as clean slate legislation. Automatic record sealing for certain eligible convictions, they argue, would go a long way in helping formerly incarcerated people re-enter society, get jobs, housing, and just feel a sense of closure. Rahsaan, Mayor Morial, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much, and thank you for what you all do with public radio. Keep writing.
Yeah,
we're doing our best.
We're trying. So tell people, Mayor Morial, who may not know, what is clean slate legislation? What does it mean?
So the idea is for there to be an automatic erasure of a conviction or an arrest, so that people, after people have completed their time in prison, their period of parole, or their period of probation, or if they've been arrested and never convicted, to erase those records so that that does not remain as a barrier to housing, jobs, scholarships, education, and the like. And the idea is, in the old days, under the current system, it's time-consuming, expensive, and laborious. You got to file all these papers. You've got to get certified copies of records. You've got to pay all these fees. And that it basically creates another barrier. So this is automatic erasure. And I'm sure my colleague will talk about this, 500,000 people in Massachusetts would be eligible right away. And in the 13 states where this policy has been enacted already, 18 million people have benefited. Now, it excludes serious offenses. That's important. And this is for this majority of these offenses are drug convictions, marijuana convictions, non-violent felonies, if you will. And the idea here is we shouldn't saddle people with a lifelong sentence after they paid their debt to society in the criminal justice system. That's the idea here. And so with technology, an automatic, if you will, erasure is possible if Massachusetts would adopt this policy and if its legislation would follow the 13 states and the District of Columbia that have done it already.
Rahsaan Hall, just to be clear, I think it was under Governor Patrick that we passed criminal justice reform that did erase records, but one after a set period of time, X number of years for a misdemeanor, Y number of years for a felony. Right. But what was tied to it is a cumbersome process where the burden was on the person to have to try to clear their record. The difference here is this would be automatic. Is that what the deal is?
That's exactly it. And so just for folks who don't understand, it's 3 years for a misdemeanor, as long as you stayed out of trouble or persons have stayed out of trouble after completion of their sentence or term of parole, like President Morial said, or 7 years for a felony. And it excludes certain sex offenses, certain firearm, and certain public corruption offenses. But the other thing to keep in mind is that these records are still available for law enforcement. So for all of the naysayers out there who say, well, this is dangerous, we need to know if somebody's been involved or has a criminal record or background, that is fine for law enforcement, but that shouldn't be a barrier for somebody getting a job, getting a house, being a volunteer for their kids' school or pursuing education. And so that's one of the issues, and this just automates the process.
You know, also, Mayor Morial mentioned that there are 500,000 people that would be affected, which is a huge share of the population here. It's not just 500,000 people. We should zero in on who those 500,000 people are, and there's obviously a racial equity part of this.
Absolutely. In Massachusetts, you know, we've seen the disparity studies, the one that was done by Harvard Law School, but of that 500,000, roughly, there's about 45% who are African American or black, 52% are Latinx. Meanwhile, black and Latinx folks only make up 25% of the Commonwealth's population. So this is a racial justice issue. It's also common sense, the business benefit behind it, because if people are able to get a job, they're able to pay into the tax revenue of the Commonwealth and so many other things.
And recidivism rates go down, correct?
Absolutely. If somebody can get a job, they can get on with their life.
You know, Mayor Morial, one of the examples in one of these stories I've read, which was really kind of sad, because there's a racial component, but there's also a youth component. I mean, a lot of people who are, you know, maybe doing bad things when they're 18 and 19, and then they get caught and they get in trouble and they pay their price. But there was a story about a woman who was involved in a misdemeanor when she was 22. Now she's 36, or at the time of the story she was 36, and she couldn't, like you said, go off because they run a Corey check, right? When you're going to go to volunteer to be a chaperone on the field trip with your kid that's in second grade. She couldn't do that because of this misdemeanor from like 15 years before. That's pretty common.
It's not only that, that's the tragedy of the current system. The current system saddles people with, in effect, a lifetime penalty against their ability to participate in society. And that's why it's a common sense issue, if you will. So many people, it's so common, you could get arrested for shoplifting, for loitering, for unruly conduct because you attended a party. You could, sometimes people who face financial distress in the past may have passed a check that was, quote, worthless. and they end up with a lifelong sentence. And that's an injustice. And it, as President Hall has talked about, it is underscored by the disparities that it more often than not affects Black and brown people. And I would say that in many instances, it affects women. So this is I think Massachusetts has an opportunity, and I have a lot of confidence in Massachusetts with being a state that's always been forward thinking in how it thinks about these sorts of things, to really adopt this policy. We're pushing it all over the nation, and we've had a great deal of success. And I think people will respond. I think the public does support this when they understand what it doesn't include: sex offenders, violent offenders, and people, as well as the fact that law enforcement will still have access to the records when they need it.
But Mayor Morial said he was optimistic, and that's because he doesn't have to work with the Massachusetts legislature. That's why he said it. Okay, so Marjorie and I are going to try to be nice because we want this to pass, so we don't want to offend anybody.
Please. Thank you.
2019, this thing was filed in Massachusetts for the first time. Marjorie and I spent part of our morning before the show trying to figure out one argument against this thing. And we couldn't. What is the argument? Is there another side to this? Why didn't it pass in 2019 and 2020?
I think there's generally resistance to change. There's all the slippery slope arguments.
What's the slippery slope argument?
That when people seal their records, that we're not going to be able to know who is a danger or who is a threat. But here's the problem. The law already allows for sealing of criminal records. This just automates the process. So if it's been 3 years and you committed a misdemeanor and you've stayed out of trouble, you can go and petition. This just makes it easier. So
and
you
do you
don't
think
have to go
that
through the burdensome
in 2026, I mean, honestly here, and I know you a long time, you're an honest guy, are the odds of this happening in 2026 greater than they've been in the prior 7 years? And if so, why?
Because there is a lot of momentum behind this piece of legislation. There is a national trend. There's 13 states that have passed
that's
it.
A big deal.
It's before the main legislature, the governor right now. And so Massachusetts is in play to be, if not the 14th, the 15th.
Yeah. We'll ask the governor about it when she's here next Tuesday, about whether, whether she supports this.
You didn't say that Massachusetts has got the least effective legislature that does the least
amount. Yeah, but we don't want to hurt their cause.
We don't
so
want
we
to hurt
can
their
say
cause.
that another day.
So Mayor, the other thing that I should have given credit was Yvonne Abraham, the columnist for the Globe, that had the story about the woman who couldn't go to her kid's field trip. But she also pointed out that a conviction may have been dismissed. The case may have been dismissed by the prosecutors. Prosecutors may have dropped the case, or sometimes the case went through, but a defendant was found not guilty. But these things still show up on people's records. That's a big problem.
Yeah, and look, in a lot of times, a mere arrest that was never even prosecuted. In other words, an arrest and someone was arrested and the charges were never pursued by the prosecutor ends up. And what I find with employers and with sometimes people make no distinction between an arrest and a conviction. And therefore they'll see an arrest and think, well, this person has a criminal record. No, they have an arrest record. They do not have a record of a conviction or guilty plea. And that's why I think simplifying this makes good sense. Look, we're in the age of technology. Why shouldn't we use technology to make systems easier for people to utilize? And so automating it just makes good common sense.
You know, Mayor Morial, you've talked about what's happening in the states with this automatic clean slate. Obviously, there are federal offenses, too, that hold people back. Is there an effort in a Congress or maybe post-November in Congress to do a similar sort of thing on the federal level?
Look, I'm looking forward to a potential change in control that would give us an opportunity to renew the conversation about justice system reform, which has been a DOA under this Trump administration, although understanding that in the first Trump administration, the First Step Act was passed. Now it's in the implementation phases, but there is no question that we need a renewed effort around justice system reform. And a new Congress would be essential. Even though the president would remain with veto power, we need to begin to build the public will, build the climate, get the legislation out there that would extend this kind of method to the federal system as well.
We're talking to Rahsaan Hall, who's president of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, and Marc Morial, former mayor of New Orleans, who is now the national president, has been for a couple of decades, of the National Urban League.
You know, the same Yvonne Abraham column that I was referencing also talks about how things like getting life insurance, or getting credit, or getting a real estate license,
or getting a job,
or being able to stay in your apartment that you're in, or whatever. I'm wondering if there's something wrong with the way we do queries in Massachusetts, or is that a totally different thing?
This is connected to it. I mean, part of it is who has access to it. Certainly the law prohibits certain information from being shared or distributed, but there are these private entities, these third-party companies that go and get information that probably should have been not available to the public, and they provide that to private employers. The state operates as it's supposed to, but when you get it into the hands of third parties, no telling where this information goes. And so this is another effort to really kind of stem that, make sure that these records are sealed.
You can see, you can just see where, if you can't do these things, the job, the house, the real estate license, whatever it is, you are really kind of screwed.
It makes it harder for you. I mean, say, for instance, you wanted to lead a germothermal rally. You have to go out and get...
The mayor doesn't get that.
That was very good, very good.
You have to go out and get some permitting. Afterwards. Yeah. They run your record and they see you've got a certain offense. But in all seriousness, applying for a house, the level of stability that has, getting an opportunity for employment, whether they're doing the record check or looking for credit opportunities. They're looking to see whether or not you have a criminal record. These are the things that are denying people, and when you look at the racial disparities in the Commonwealth, it's disproportionately impacting people of color. And so this is the unfinished work of that 2018 criminal law reform bill that we filed.
You know, Rahsaan Hall, a question. When you mentioned slippery slope thing, and that's almost always the argument against anything that matters. If you can't come up with an argument against the thing, you say it's going to lead to something that's horrible, and you make up what the thing is. But I was thinking about criminal justice reform, and back in Massachusetts, and you were here for this. I don't know if you were at the Civil Liberties Unit at the time. Mm-hmm. Part of what was done here was, and I think in 3/4 of the states, and I think the federal government and federal contractors were covered under Barack Obama, is the so-called ban the box thing, where an applicant for a job, at least, I hope I get this right, I think at least in their first interview, could not be asked about whether or not they had a criminal record. They could be asked, I think, later down the line. And while there was overwhelming support for this, down the line, some well-intentioned critics, not lunatics, but people who generally supported it, said the problem with it is employers, and maybe this was a slippery slope, some employers assumed the worst in certain circumstances. If an applicant came from a particular neighborhood, the color of their skin, whatever, and they weren't able to ask them something about this, they assumed the worst. So is there anything around, I don't know if you want to speak to that, it's fine. Is there anything about this clean slate thing that may have an unintended consequence that you or your national president worry about?
I mean, there used to be this rumor that, and it's a rumor, it's not true, that if you sealed your criminal record and somebody ran your record, that it would show sealed, and that would raise more questions and speculations like you're talking about. But that wasn't true. That wasn't the case. There's nothing there. And that's what we're talking about. President Morial mentioned there's this erasure. It's still available to law enforcement. So the public safety concerns go out the window. But for people who are applying for jobs, applying to school, applying to be in their children's school as a chaperone, that record isn't coming up because you've been out of trouble for 7 years if it was a felony, or 3 years if it was a misdemeanor. And it is the current state of the law. This just automates the process.
And what do people, I mean, this is an obvious question, what do people do in Massachusetts if they want to make this happen? Just call their own legislator, call the speaker, Senate president? What do they do?
So certainly express support to your own legislators. It's currently sitting in Senate Ways and Means. So if you want to reach out to the chair of Senate Ways and Means, Chairman Rodriguez, Senate President, but also the House needs to know too, because it's going to come before them. So, and more can be found at our website, ulem.org, or the Clean Slate Coalition, cleanslatema.org.
And we will definitely broach it with Governor Healy next week. You know, Mayor Morial, before you go, and President Morial, before you go, we should have started this way. I'm assuming there are a couple of people listening to the show who may not know what the agenda of the Urban League is. What do you do? Obviously, you care about this legislation.
So I want to
spend a minute or two.
let me encapsulate our call to action, which revolves around three things. Number one, the defense of democracy. And that means we center on voting rights, freedom of the press, in programs and in advocacy. Number two, the demand for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a demand for equal opportunity and civil rights. And the third is the defeat of poverty, which is about jobs, wealth, closing the wealth gap. That's our 3-point call to action. Now, how do we actualize that work? Number one, no organization in the nation has higher quality direct services programs than the Urban League movement. Whether you're in Eastern Massachusetts, in Boston, or New York City, or Los Angeles, where I am today, or Chicago, we are in 90 plus cities. We have the best after school programs, the best workforce programs, job training programs, home buyer education programs, entrepreneurship support programs, expungement programs. We serve 6 million people a year. So pound for pound, the impact that we have, the results that we get. So we are both a direct services organization and an advocacy organization. We advocate for public policies. That's what this is about. And Clean Slate is about the defeat of poverty, because many people who get saddled with these records can't get a job, can't get a good job. And then they can't get their foot up in the American economy. So everything we do is tied to one of these three principles or calls to action.
So before you go, Mayor, since I don't know how often you and I are going to be talking, what's the best affordable restaurant in New Orleans?
Ooh, well, I'm gonna lift up Dookie Chase's.
Chase. Oh, Rahsaan was saying it, and tell us why.
They have the best gumbo, the best fried chicken.
Look at the smile on his
at
face.
the best prices anywhere in New Orleans. But let me say this. A bad restaurant in New Orleans doesn't exist, because if one exists, I guarantee you they'll be out of business tomorrow.
Well, based on my limited experience, I would have to agree. Mayor, it's good to meet you, and thanks for your work. And Rahsaan, as always,
thank you very much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Call your legislator if you're a Massachusetts resident. What's the name of this thing?
This is called I forget the
just
name.
Say Clean Slate.
Clean Slate.
Fair enough. Great to see you, Rahsaan. Thanks. Good luck with the work.
Speaking with Marc Morial, the President and CEO of the National Urban League, and Rahsaan Hall of the Urban League of Massachusetts, who's got a side gig as the MC for all these No Kings rallies. Does a great job down there at those rallies. Thanks to you both for coming with us. Coming up after this quick break, it is time for the long run. Only after marathon runners complete their feat of athletic prowess, Judy Pitasi starts her Herculean effort to clean up all the sweatshirts and sweaters and everything else left behind in Hopkinton. She's next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, a deadly and growing global weather phenomenon. Invisible and unpredictable. We talk with a professional storm chaser following devastating rain bombs. Yes, rain bombs. Ahead of a new Nova documentary. Plus, what's a viola player doing at a gas station? That's the Curiosity Desk. Today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and Schneider Electric, bringing sustainability advisory services to the Boston Athletic Association and committed to helping advance energy tech worldwide. Learn more about the Schneider Electric and BAA partnership at se.com.
And the Museum of Science, exploring our world and beyond with free Omni films for everyone on Sunday, May 3rd, thanks to MathWorks. Ticket information at mos.org.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live from the library and streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Back here Friday. On Tuesday, when we return, the governor will be with us, Maura Healey, for the first hour to take your questions. Mayor Wu will be with us for the second hour to take your questions. And next Friday, which is May Day, May 1, our co-host will be Ken Casey, the leader of the Dropkick Murphys. It's time for our limited series, The Long Run, exploring running and sustainability. In case you missed it, the 130th Boston Marathon was Monday. And while the runners pushed toward Copley Square, another team was hard at work behind the scene, picking up mountains of clothing left in Hopkinton. Joining us now on Zoom is the woman who leads that team. Judy Pitasi, the captain of the BA, some 200 volunteers, takes those discarded jackets and sweatpants. Well, let her say what she does with them. She's also, by day, an economist at the U.S. Department of Labor. Judy, is that a real background or is that fake? Are you really where it looks like?
That's real. I'm in Aruba.
Good for you.
Good
you deserve
for
it.
you. I love
Judy,
that.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming.
So right from
Thank
picking
you.
up all the stuff in Hopkinton, you get a plan to go to Aruba. Is that how it works every year? Is this a special treat? What's the
Not
deal?
usually, but my friend, that's how she booked the trip this year.
Beautiful, beautiful. Good for you. So tell people what you do out in Hopkinton.
And how it began.
And how it started.
How it started was that I saw clothing being thrown away, and I went up to the information tent in a rather passionate way and said, "What's happening to the clothes?" And the woman in the information desk was smart enough to say to me, "Let me have your name and number." And the following summer, she called me and said, "Do you still have the passion for the clothes?" So I said yes, and then I tried to find someone to collect the clothing that wouldn't shred it or would have a purpose, and partnered with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which was a perfect fit because they collect it, sell it, and the money comes right back to Boston.
So what's there? I mean, and how does it work? Do you wait till the last of the runners leave, and then what?
When the last wave goes, except for the village is the hard-working team because they're working on every wave, picking up clothing.
Okay.
But when the final wave goes, I have volunteers dispersed from the village to Grove to Maine to Stott to Ashland. But we've weaned that back a little to Western Nurseries because we don't get anything on the very end.
So I think I read that the original amount of clothing and that was shedded was somewhere in the 10,000 pound range, and then after the bombing in 2013, when they banned the moving of equipment and clothing from the starting line to the finish line for people, that are not 10,000 pounds, 10 tons. Did it grow to 50 tons? Did I read that right? That's the approximate?
Correct.
50 tons?
We averaged 40,000 pounds. We had 52,000 pounds the year after the bombing because a lot of people still brought their bags thinking they could check them. And then average now, we have 30,000 runners coming into town.
That's incredible.
So we average about a pound a person. And I expect this year to be big.
You know, Judy, one story I read that I really, even though I hear wonderful things about it, there's no way this can be true. I read a story that a bunch of years ago, some guy who ran the race calls, I guess the BAA, I don't know who they called, and said they left their keys in their jacket in Hopkinton. Well, you put your head down, so maybe it is true.
It's a true story.
You
We
sorted. Well,
luckily
tell people what you did. I can't believe this.
we
What
were
did you
lucky enough to. So everything gets in a big truck, and we were lucky enough to narrow it down to where it was at least. And I had 37 bags delivered to my house from the Hopkinton Cultural Arts Center. And I physically went through every jacket in all those bags. And of course, by the end of the 36th bag, I found them.
Oh my God. How long did it take you?
Oh, a while. I was not a happy camper.
Like hours and hours or days and days?
Yeah, I would say every jacket because, and people have so much stuff in their jackets. It was several pairs of rubber gloves. And
oh, so did you get a gift card or a thank you?
Yes, he actually wrote me a very nice note and sent me a Starbucks card.
Oh, okay, Starbucks
Judy,
card.
maybe this is inappropriate, but when you get back from Aruba, Marjorie lost her keys last week somewhere in Brookline. So if you have a spare couple of days, is that? Can we go back to the wonderful outcome of this? You mentioned it in passing. Explain exactly what happens to this clothing and who it benefits after you collect it and pass it on.
So what happens is Big Brother, Big Sisters will take all that clothing and they will sell it. And the proceeds of those sales will come back to Massachusetts. And that money will pay to vet and mentor a big brother and a big sister.
Oh, that's great.
And we average about 25 kids a year. For discarded clothing to pay for that is amazing.
Fabulous.
But Judy, I was suspicious about the quality of the clothing because I thought if I was going to go running and drop a bunch of stuff and then I was never going to get back again, I might not bring my best stuff with me. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't you bring your best stuff because you're going to run the Boston Marathon?
No, if I was going to leave it in Hopkinton and never see it again, I might bring a sweater full of holes
How about
or something.
it, Judy?
I can address that. I have people that stand in front of me and tell me that they spent an hour and a half in Goodwill because they wanted something good enough to give away. I will say that because of the economy, some of it's not as nice as it was, but we still get wonderful stuff.
Oh,
and
that's
some of them
nice.
they're aware that it's donated. So
they are aware that it's donated. So they
Yes,
want to make
they
so
are.
that it's
Yes,
not
they
great.
are.
So they want to make sure that something is decent enough to be donated. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice too.
Hey, Judy, I think it's fabulous what you do.
It is
and
fabulous.
Congratulations and enjoy Aruba. And maybe we'll see you in person next year. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Jim's going to run
Thank
next
you.
year, so
Yeah.
he'll be there with
that'll-
his extra large
what?
sweatshirt.
What's that?
You're running next year?
Sure. No, I don't think
One
so.
advertisement before I go.
What is it?
Hopkinton Marathon Committee.
Oh,
there you
Hopkinton
are.
Marathon Committee, thank you.
That's what I do this program through.
Look at the pictures behind.
I
Look
see,
at those
she's in
beautiful.
Aruba.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Hey,
Thank
can I ask you, since you continued this conversation, by day you work at the Labor Department.
No, I just retired.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Just
so then we
retired.
could definitely ask you the question. Unlike your boss who was just fired by Trump the other day, you didn't drink at work during the day, did you? I just want to be clear.
Never.
Okay, good, okay. Judy, it's a pleasure. Enjoy retirement. Enjoy Aruba. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Judy.
so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
We very much
believe that
appreciate
woman?
it.
How great is that?
It went through 36 bags
No,
before
not
she
just that.
found
How
it.
about just collecting all the damn
I think
clothes?
it's incredible. I think
and
it's
the good
incredible.
thing that happens as a result.
And I think it's really nice that people bring nice stuff to leave there,
It is.
so that
It's a
they
beautiful story.
Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which is a great organization, gets
It
great
is.
stuff to give away.
Okay, what's
we've
coming
been
up?
speaking with Judy Pitasi. She's the captain of
Pitasi,
BAA's
too.
Pitasi, the captain of BAA's team of volunteers who take those jackets and sweatpants and donate them. The long run that we've been talking about is made possible by Schneider Electric. Thanks much to them too. Coming up after this quick break. Americans have a habit for always being in a rush. This great piece in The Atlantic asks, is this hurry causing us spiritual harm? Why do we feel like there's always something else to do? Give us a call. Let us know how you're slowing down, if you're slowing down and smelling the roses, or if that is just something that's absolutely impossible for you to do. I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
In the 1980s, romance was colliding with careerism, cynicism, and the changing dynamics between men and women. Two New Yorkers turned all of it into a funny and frank argument about love.
Men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
I'm Jared Bowen. For our next Wednesday watch party, we're revisiting When Harry Met Sally. Watch with us and call in to tell us how this classic resonates now. That's on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Boston Children's Museum, offering a range of activities for April Vacation Week, including tea parties, cardboard creations, special performances, and more. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org. And the Massachusetts Teachers Association, working together to ensure that all students have the resources they need to succeed. The MTA, a diverse union of education workers committed to the public schools and colleges our communities deserve.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. So America is the most productive nation in the world, the highest GDP per hour worked, the fastest productivity growth since the early 2000s. But that hurry, that push to do more, as Marjorie mentioned, is killing us. Not just harming us physically, but eating away at our spiritual and moral health, assuming you have spiritual and moral health. That's the argument of one pastor featured in The Atlantic recently, who says, quote, "It's like we just churn out tired, exhausted souls like a widget factory." Certainly something anyone who's ever worked with me apparently can relate to. It's a case for rest, for fighting burnout in a society that simply does not care about your emotional and spiritual health, for unplugging, turning off the social media and the Outlook alerts, and just communing with yourself and your spirit, for not hurrying. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. Do you suffer from what they call hurry sickness, or do you refuse to rush as I do? Refuse to rush. My number is 877-301-8970. Marjorie, what time do I get up every day?
I think it's 5:15.
5:22.
5:22.
Why do I get up at why is my alarm set for 5:22?
Because you can start texting.
No, it's not. That might be.
Poor Jamie, who's still trying to sleep.
That was not the answer.
Okay.
The answer is, and this is sincere, I've said it a million times, I don't like to rush into the day. If you rush into the day, the whole day's ruined before it began. So I sit there, I drink my coffee, I read the paper, I relax. I do not rush. Do I rush? I do not rush anywhere.
Okay.
Excuse me. Am I early for every meeting and every show and everything? Why? Because I don't like rushing.
Jim, I read the diagnosis for people who have this hurry sickness. Now, let me just ask you a couple of questions.
Wait, what is this list?
It's the symptoms. It is
of
the
what?
symptoms of people who have this hurry
I
sickness.
do not have hurry sickness.
Well, they list them.
Okay, what are they?
The first one has a tendency to interrupt others.
Okay, that's one thing I may have. One symptom.
Here's the second one.
Okay.
Impatience, generally and always finding yourself hurrying others along.
Okay, maybe impatience. That is two out of a long list of symptoms.
Okay, you qualify for pretty much every one. Everything feels urgent, Jim. Does everything feel urgent to you?
Things are urgent.
Do you have a
that's three.
preoccupation with your to-do list, getting things done?
I have a long to-do list.
Yeah, well, I hate to say this. Relying on adrenaline to get you through everything. I would say, Jim, that I have diagnosed you and you are in big trouble. There's no question about it.
Okay, our number is 877-301-8970. Despite those symptoms, I, in all sincerity, one of the most important things to me in life is not having to rush. Things aren't done well. You feel like crap if you have to, even if you get to something on time, if you had to rush to do it, it's an unpleasant experience. You are rushing everywhere all the time, and it takes a toll. Is that not true?
I always tell you that one of the things you have really changed about me is getting places early. I try to get places early now, and then I bring work with me. I sit in the car.
Do you feel better about it?
Yes, because you're not in a panic.
Exactly.
The traffic is terrible. You're not stuck in a traffic jam. I bring stuff to do with me, so if I get there early, I can sit there for 15 minutes and get some work done. So I think this guy, this John Mark Comer, this pastor that they're all quoting in this Atlantic piece, he talks about how this is an affliction, particularly of millennials and Gen Z, because they're so wired to their phones and wired to electronics. And these other stories talk about how you have this problem if you feel like you're constantly frantic, you're constantly multitasking, you're frequently checking the clock, you are chronically feeling stress and anxiety, you're very competitive, highly organized, and overly focused. I mean, this is an awful lot of people that feel like they're in these situations, whether they've got tense jobs or whether they've got little kids. Or I think a lot of people are suffering
There's no question. Hurry sickness is a serious disease. I never heard it called that till this morning. But it's a real serious problem. Jamie, I said I got up at 5:22, which I do. I don't know why, but I do. Jamie thinks he knows why. He said it's set to 5:22 because Jim knows I get up at 5:21.
Did you see the text from Derek?
I did. Derek is our coworker here.
Derek is our coworker here. He wants to know if Jim spends his quiet morning time in the red room.
I might,
which
Derek.
is,
I
which
might
is
not.
Jim's sex room. That
it's not my sex room. Thank you. It is a room in my house that happens to be red.
The red room. You'll never live that one down.
No, I guess not. Okay.
Let me saw you on Zoom.
By the way, I want to.
We saw you on Zoom.
No, I heard you the first time, Marjorie.
In the red
I know.
room.
Okay, fine. An anonymous texter says, I'm always in a hurry to get home to my dogs and my books, so now I pretty much just stay home with my dogs and my books. Problem solved. How many people in the studio here, how many people rush around during the day? Tell the truth. That's actually a fairly small percentage. Do you like rushing? Any of you who raised your hand? Nobody. Anybody who said rush? Nobody likes it. So stop doing it. Plan your day. By the way, that's why I have a to-do list. You know what, Marjorie? You know what this is?
What?
The cover of my work for today? My to-do list.
Yep.
And since I have an organized to-do list, unlike you, who can't even find a to-do list or anything else, I'm able to plan my day.
Okay.
So I'm not rushing, and I feel better as a result of it.
I lose a lot of things. That is true.
That's not what I was saying. But okay, 877-301-8970.
Let's go to Rama in the car. Thank you for calling.
Hey there, what's up?
Hi.
Hi, Marjorie and Jim.
Hey.
This is a great topic.
It is.
I gave up rushing about 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was chronically late. Now I'm chronically early since I've given up rushing.
But isn't that better? Isn't that better? I'm chronically early too.
It's so much less stress. And one thing I realized, there's a word called busy. It's actually a state of mind called busy. Many women who multitask, have kids, husbands, whatever, they got a lot on their plate. They're quote unquote busy. And that's a state of mind. It's a state of being. If we can let go of the busy, let go of the rushing, and just be step by step, one thing at a time, it'll help us be much more happier and at peace. I'm very lucky. I have freedom of schedule. So I don't have to rush anywhere, but I choose not to rush.
Very zen call there, Rama. Thank you very much for your call. He changed his life 1.5 years ago, which means we all can change our lives, Marjorie, and rush less. What do you
Jim, here's some text, Jim. Jim seems to be in a hurry every day. Now it's not 2 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
At 1:01, he always has a doctor's appointment or must pick up one of his kids. And by the way, his kids are really old enough
Zoe,
to pick
not a
themselves.
texter.
And then stop rushing, says Jim, the person who texts after hours with a request
This is unbelievable.
saying early AM is fine, and then he asks for the work product immediately. A lot of frustration.
Can I be clear here? Can I be clear? I want to parse exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I do not rush.
You do
I
not
stop
rush.
rushing.
Okay.
Others around me should rush. And the reason I don't have. Okay, let's go to Rumi. Is that pronounced right, or did I screw that up? Rumi.
It's Rumi. It's Rumi.
Hi, Rumi.
Hi.
It's good to talk to you. You're in a car. Welcome.
Good to talk to you, too. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, it's echoing. I'm driving.
I know. We can't help that. We hear you fine. It's never going to get fixed, not in this lifetime or the next. So just keep talking. Turn off the lights, too. Go ahead.
And I wanted to answer your question. You said, what do you do to slow down?
Yeah.
I wanted to say what I don't do to slow down.
What do you not do?
And that is I don't do goat yoga because of cultural appropriation. I know you talked about it. I tried to call, and I feel that I'm bringing that in, but that's one thing I would definitely not do is goat yoga.
I'm embarrassed to say, what is goat yoga? What is it?
Doing yoga with goats?
You guys talked about this the other day.
We
yoga
did?
with goats.
Oh, this woman had a goats in her yoga place.
We replayed that when we had the goat in the studio. That is, I can understand. That's probably wise. I wasn't listening when I was talking that day. So, Rumi, thank you for the call. I forgot, when that goat was here, the woman has the goat in the yoga studio. Is that what?
I think you're outside with the goats doing
cute
yoga.
Are baby goats?
They were really
way?
cute. They were baby
cute.
goats.
Baby goats. I mean,
Baby goats.
David in the car says the only room I ever rush to is the poodle room. So say hi to Cash when you get there.
Is where Cash Patel supposedly hangs out. It's a $20,000 membership, members only bar, high up in some skyscraper in Las Vegas. What is it? The 67th floor, the 87th floor?
You heard what he said to reporters yesterday at the Todd Blanche press conference when he announces the indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which I think we're going to talk about tomorrow. A reporter has the courage to ask him, Patel, who was there accompanying Todd Blanche, the head of the acting head of the Justice Department, about this story in the Atlantic. And in typical 4-year-old, pathetic, drunken style, I'm not saying he was drunk at the moment, but drunken style, Kash Patel says to the reporter, you know what the answer is? You're lying. That's what these are like from Trump on down. These are like people with the intellect and emotional response of toddlers.
Okay.
I mean, it's just angry toddlers, I should say.
They may be angry toddlers. We're talking about rushing now,
okay.
and not
That's
having
true.
the rushing,
sorry.
not having the rushing disease. Now, here's John from Marlboro. I have
What do you
anxiety. So does my mother. We both make my wife very anxious with our need to be on time and hurrying. My wife, however, loves smelling the roses. Meds, says John, are helping me appreciate the flowers a little bit more. So maybe that's what you need, Jim.
You know what I
Some
did this morning?
medication.
You know what I did this morning, just so people know? I had an appointment down the street on Boylston Street at 7:45. You know what time I got there? Thank you for asking.
7 o'clock?
7:20. And so what do you do for 25 minutes?
You bring all your stuff with you that you need to read.
I
That's
read
what I do.
Susan Page's book. She's on with us
Susan
next
Page's
Monday
book.
talking about the Queen and her presidents.
Actually, it's a really good book.
It's a fabulous book. She's with us on Monday, Susan Page from USA Today. And I sat there and read the damn book. So it was like a twofer. I didn't have to rush. I was ahead for my appointment. Am I boring you or whatever?
No, I was reading some of the text.
I think I am boring you.
No, you're not boring me. You're not boring
Are
me.
you jealous that you rush and I don't? I think you are. Do you resent me because I don't rush? Be honest.
I think you do kind of rush, Jim. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Give me an example of when I rushed.
Well, as I said before, rapid talking.
Okay, rapid talking.
Tendency to interrupt.
I do interrupt a little.
Tendency to be impatient.
Yep.
Find yourself hurrying others.
I do.
All around you.
Okay, so what's
preoccupation apparently is pretty profound with your to-do list. You're on the spectrum here, Jim. Everything feels urgent, relying on adrenaline. How many times have you told me you rely on adrenaline to get through the day?
Never. Anonymous texter said, I did puppy yoga with Christy Noem once. Once was what. The number. By the way, here's a good one. I assume it's from Jamie or Zoe. He doesn't rush when driving. Who drives the speed limit and is criticized every time I say it? By you. Who drives the speed limit?
You drive the speed limit.
Yeah, you know why?
Nobody's driving
because I'm not rushing anywhere,
55
Marjorie.
miles an hour on the Massachusetts Turnpike,
Except
Jim,
where it says
causing
55 miles an hour.
Except for you.
Yeah.
Sheila in North Andover.
Hi,
thank you for
Sheila.
calling.
Sorry, Marjorie's. Whatever.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
Jim, my sister has the same issues that you have.
What are they?
However,
What issues?
I, about 10 years ago, became semi-retired because...
Well, wait a second. Before we hear about you, what issues do I and your sister have in common?
Oh, everything Marjorie's listing.
Okay, fine. Okay, move on.
Yeah,
You retired
and that's
in
only the
September.
half of it.
Okay, Marjorie, let's move on.
Sometimes it can really drive me crazy. Anyway,
Really? Thank you.
about 10 years ago, I became semi-retired because I got cancer.
Oh, I'm
And
so sorry.
I became a night owl.
Oh.
And so I was staying up really late, and then I couldn't get up in the morning. So what I started to, and my family started to complain. So what I did was...
Sheila, I'm going to semi-retire before you finish this call. What are we? Where are we going here with this?
I started setting my clock in the car and my bedroom clock a half an hour ahead.
You're a genius. I love this.
So when I get in the car now, I look at it
Yeah.
and I think, oh, okay, and I always get there on time.
Now, have
And
you ever
also-
figured out that the clock is a half hour ahead or
Yeah.
not?
No, it doesn't. I don't.
I love
it
this.
works for me.
It's a
But
great
the only
story.
thing is,
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
only drawback to it, sometimes I get in the car and I realize that you and Marjorie are over.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Say hi to your sister
Sheila,
for me, Sheila.
Thank you for the call. People
ever try
complain
that?
we're rushing through our show now, Jim, because we're only 2 hours.
Well, it's
instead
not
of
true.
3.
Did you ever do the clock thing?
Yeah, I've done it a million times.
Doesn't
I usually
work?
do it 10 minutes ahead. Never works because I know it's 10 minutes ahead, so it doesn't really work.
Worked for Sheila from North Andover.
By the way, this guy's book is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Yeah.
That's what his book
I
is.
could have written that.
And he claims that this is helped. He's helping people slow down. He wants you to spend more time in solitude, Jim, fasting, witnessing, and expressing generosity.
What the hell is witnessing? What does that mean?
I
What
don't
is it?
know. You look at people around you. You witness. I think it's a Christian thing. You bear
Well,
witness.
I don't think I'll be doing that.
It won't be
then.
doing that. Susie from Framingham, thank you for calling. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Suze.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We do this every time you call. Hi,
That's
Suze.
all right.
It's great to
I
talk to
know.
you.
And
Go ahead.
I never call.
Oh.
I'm late for my dentist appointment.
What do you mean never call?
And
now you are?
I'm sarcastic, Jim.
Oh, that was a joke.
I'm late for my dentist
Oh, it was a
appointment.
joke.
Right now. I'm actually late for my dentist appointment.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
hoping if I'm late enough, they'll cancel it.
I can relate to that. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
So do you have a hurry sickness problem or not, Suze?
I always get there right on time and not a minute sooner. Why waste the time?
Well, because as I said, you can do other things that need doing ahead of time, and then you don't have to rush when the time comes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Okay.
if I just get there on time,
Yeah, that's a
I don't
good
have
point.
to do anything else.
No, that's a very fine point. Suze, thank you as always for your call. We really appreciate it. By the way, here's another thing that I violate in terms of not rushing.
Yeah.
You know how fabulous this comedian Aaron Chen, do you know this guy from Australia? He's fabulous.
I've heard of him.
He's talking about oatmeal as a barometer of busyness in modern society. Here's Chen.
Is he coming?
He's not
Chen.
as funny today as he usually is.
Aaron Chen?
He decided he didn't want to rush to the show. Oh, he just texted me. He said maybe next week when he's not busy, but not today.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're going to get Aaron Chen. I guess we're not going to.
Oh, we do
have
have
it.
it. Oh, he didn't
See,
show up.
He didn't rush.
He was a little late.
Here he
but-
is.
Okay, fine. Here he is.
Some people are so busy they're eating overnight oats. Have you heard about this? They don't have time in the morning to make oatmeal. They got to make it the night before. That's too busy. Oatmeal is not traditionally a 24-hour dish, you know?
Oh.
I make overnight oats.
I was going to say,
I
you make
do.
overnight oats. Why do you do that?
That's my Aaron Chen imitation.
Okay. 877-301-8970.
No.
What?
No, that's it. Look at the clock.
What
does that mean? Let's work through this.
It's time to talk with Edgar B. Hurt III.
Okay, let's try that. Edgar.
Yes.
Edgar.
Do you have hurry sickness, yes or no?
Yes, depends.
What does
Depends.
that mean? What
well,
does that mean?
It depends on the situation. Yes, I can get a little bit hurry sick,
Yeah.
I would say, but at times I am able to make myself realize that I'm doing it, and I'm doing it somewhat pathologically, and I can take a breath and stop.
Wow.
You know, it really depends.
That was one of the worst answers I've ever heard.
So you don't feel that you're frantic, running around
Yes, he
multitasking,
does.
frequently checking
No,
the clock.
I mean, yes,
suffering from
of
chronic
course I am.
stress.
But again, I think it depends on the thing. So, like in the workplace, sometimes we're a little bit busy doing a daily show, as you know.
Yeah, we do one
and
too,
so,
yeah.
like that's kind of foisted upon you. So you do your best to keep yourself organized, but you're frantic and you're running around. I think outside of the workplace, when I don't have to, I try not to. I try to say like, okay, take a beat, take a breath. Relax, try to do something, be mindful, you know.
Oh, Edgar's mindful.
Well, you're
There it
mindful.
is.
Don't you do that mindful thing,
I
whatever
don't.
that
Maybe I
is?
should do more of it. I don't know.
Wait a
Edgar-
second. I thought you do. Don't you do that thing every day or
No,
something?
that's meditating.
What's the
Meditating is
difference?
not mindfulness.
What is it?
We have to go now.
Okay,
we have to go now.
What do you do?
That's the start of a whole other segment.
What do you do
Start of
on
a
the
whole
show?
other segment.
The
Exactly.
show.
So, as you know, gas prices are pretty high.
I heard that, yeah, I heard
they're
they're
pretty
high,
high,
yeah.
and it's pretty tough to sort of grit your teeth and fill that car up at most gas stations. But there is a gas station in Quincy where if you go to fill up your car, there will be some live viola players.
Oh, my God.
And so we're going to talk with the gas station owner about why it became very important to him to find specifically some viola players to play viola music at the gas station for his customers while they're gritting their teeth and filling up their cars at the pump right now.
Gosh.
And we'll meet the viola player as well.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That is
We'll be
fabulous.
listening. Edgar sounds relaxed and
He does sound- he
unrushed.
sounds very relaxed.
It's a good thing. Edgar, good to speak to you. We'll be listening. Thank
you
you.
very much, Edgar.
Bye.
Okay, and thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thanks to people that came down to the Boston Public Library to see us.
Thank you all for
We really
coming.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Thank you. Keeping up 24/7 you can with our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio, which is very clever. Tune in tomorrow for our political analyst, Chuck Todd, former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrew Cabral, Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young, and GBH's Jared Bowen. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Ariana Gonzalez, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jane Bologna, the BPL staff here, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Lauren Herbert, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel.
You rushed through that. Look at all the time we have left.
I know. I know. Would you like to say anything more?
I would, actually. I'd like to.
What would you like to say?
Anonymous texter at a car in Rhode Island said, Jim gets up at 5:22 every day because he doesn't know how to reset his clock.
You know what the bigger question is,
not
though?
easy.
Why 5:22? Why not 5:20?
I don't know. I mean, in all seriousness, I don't know.
5:22?
No, I understand it.
Why not 5:23?
I heard you the first time. I don't know. I still don't know.
Okay.
When you ask me,
All right.
and you always ask me, I didn't know then, and you know what else I don't know? Now.
You don't know
I don't
now.
know.
Okay.
5:22.
It's just a little strange if you ask me, but
They
that's
have
okay.
relaxing sound. Let's hear the relaxing sound. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, that's not.
Stay tuned to the
We
Curiosity
work with a
Desk, which
pathetic
starts
crew.
immediately
We do,
after us
really
at
do.
89.7 GBH. The Culture Show starts at 2, live from the Boston Public Radio. They're going to do a call-in
Library,
about
too.
From the library. They're going to do a call-in about when
I
Harry
love
met Sally.
when they do that with the movie
Yeah,
thing. That's
and
a
they are
great
going to be
show.
here. I'm sorry, I
know
should
they
have
are.
said that. They are going to be here.
Should have said
Jared,
that.
Callie, and Joyce Cole-Haywick.
Oh,
They're
great.
hosting this month's Wednesday watch party again, asking listeners and viewers if When Harry Met Sally still holds up. I just thought of it at Christmas. I still think it's great. What do you think?
I think it's fabulous.
It is fabulous. I'm Archer Egan.
I'm going to the Germo whatever rally right now. What was it called again?
The Germo-Thermo rally.
Germo-Thermo rally. If you're joining me, we can walk over together.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning
Bye.
in. Hope you have a great afternoon.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Framingham State University, where the strength of a Commonwealth begins with access to opportunity. At FSU, students examine evidence and serve the public good. Framingham State University. Live to the truth. Learn more at framingham.edu.
And Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty believes progress happens when people feel secure and exists to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow. Learn more at libertymutual.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, for decades, so much U.S. foreign policy has been shaped, influenced by massive oil reserves in the Middle East. Today we ask, how did we end up here? As in, what exactly was happening on the Earth millions of years ago that led to hundreds of billions of barrels of petroleum seeping and percolating in the rocks underneath this particular part of the world? Hint, it's not dinosaurs. Then, what is that beautiful sound? It's a viola player, performing live at a gas station in Quincy? Plus, that, my friends, is a rain bomb. Yes, there are rain bombs. So what are they, and why are they getting more common? Ahead of a new Nova documentary, we meet one storm chaser who knows them all too well. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Libby Casey. President Trump is extending a ceasefire with Iran indefinitely while maintaining the U.S. naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran now says it has seized 2 ships and fired on a third in the strait. NPR's Aya Batrawi has more from Dubai.
The 2 vessels were seized by Iran's Revolutionary Guard in the Strait of Hormuz. That's the key waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil was passing before the war began nearly 2 months ago. Iran, which is blocking most ships now from transiting through the strait, says the seizure of today's vessels is in response to the U.S. seizing an Iranian cargo ship and its crew on Sunday. They called it an eye for an eye, an oil tanker for an oil tanker. The U.S. Navy is positioned in the Arabian Sea, blocking Iranian ships from entering or exiting the strait. Iran said the seizure of the ship violates the ceasefire, and there's no word yet on whether the 2 sides plan to meet again for another round of talks. Aya Batrawi, NPR News, Dubai.
Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faced questions from senators this morning about vaccines, a measles outbreak in South Carolina, and Medicaid. He's on Capitol Hill for 2 budget hearings today, starting with the Finance Committee, but senators are hitting on a wide range of controversial health policies. Massachusetts Democrat Elizabeth Warren pressed Kennedy on the one-off deals that the Trump administration has signed with individual drug companies, saying the U.S. needs a comprehensive approach.
If these deals with Big Pharma are so great for Americans, then we should be able to see what promises have been made.
You have the power to make this deal yourself. Why don't you do that? Why did you? We did this because you refused to do it.
I think what we've got is Trump University.
You have a lot more power to negotiate than we do.
Stakes.
We got the lowest prices in history.
By healthcare costs, and you and Donald Trump are actually making the problem worse.
This afternoon, Kennedy goes before the Senate Health Committee. The big tech company Meta says it will soon begin tracking its employees' digital movements to train its artificial intelligence. As NPR's Bobby Allen reports, the surveillance has been met with blowback from workers who say that's intrusive.
Meta told employees new logging software will record keystrokes, mouse movements, and even take snapshots of employees' screens. Meta made the announcement to its 78,000 employees in an internal memo that was reviewed by NPR. In response to employees' concerns, Meta leadership wrote in another internal message, quote, "The model will not be able to memorize any of the screen content it sees," adding that all the data will be disconnected from employee names. Meta is ramping up AI across its workforce, just as it plans to lay off about 10% of its staff next month. The new surveillance will not apply to employees in Europe, where the practice would violate data privacy laws. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
At this hour, stocks are trading up. The Nasdaq saw a surge today, and the Dow and S&P 500 are both higher. NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A person with a confirmed case of measles passed through Logan Airport earlier this month. A statement from the Boston Public Health Commission and the Mass Department of Public Health says the individual traveled to Boston on April 14th. Both agencies are trying to identify and notify people who may have been exposed during that time. They're also urging unvaccinated people who may have been exposed to contact their healthcare providers. The person with measles was on board a JetBlue flight that left Fort Lauderdale, Florida on the night of April 13th. It arrived at Terminal C at Logan shortly after midnight on April 14th. The individual left the airport in a private vehicle and traveled out of state. After accepting a probation agreement with prosecutors yesterday, former Cambridge City Councilor Paul Toner has avoided a criminal conviction for being a customer at a high-end brothel in North Cambridge. The Crimson reports that Toner, the last of 34 men originally charged with buying sex to agree to probation, will avoid going to trial after the case has been stalled for more than a year. Under the terms of his agreement, Toner admitted to no wrongdoing but must serve 9 months of probation, complete 24 hours of community service, and pay $2,000 to a nonprofit dedicated to preventing human trafficking. He's also banned from contacting sex workers while on probation and is required to complete a one-day training module on the impact of prostitution that includes personal testimonies from survivors of sexual exploitation. 47 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Schwab, offering investors choices from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management all in one place. Committed to helping investors in any life stage with their investing goals. More at schwab.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I am Edgar B. Herwick III, and we are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. West Texas, Venezuela, and the Middle East, all corners of the world synonymous with oil. Today, of course, oil is a driving force in our ongoing war in Iran. So, why are some places so well endowed with this powerful energy source? To answer that, we have to go back, way back, like 200 million years back, because by understanding geologic history, we can better understand the geopolitics of today. And no, oil is not just dead dinosaurs. With us to help us with this over Zoom is Robert Buchwaldt, consultant and senior research scientist in the geosciences. Robert, thank you for being with us and welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hello, Edgar. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, I should say welcome to the Curiosity Desk for the first time in this iteration of the show, but Robert has been a part of the Curiosity Desk for years. We did a feature with Robert years back about how people in West Roxbury are walking over top of a volcano, a very old volcano, and he was also a part of one of our Curiosity cruises through the Boston Harbor. So longtime contributor Robert Buchwaldt to the Curiosity Desk here.
Yes.
So before we dive into why the Middle East has so much oil, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, which is, what is oil? Like, what is it?
It's a good question. Oil is a very interesting material if you're thinking about it. It is actually a really high energy component. It's something which we can burn, which we can actually produce. And I always like to call it the super concentration of biofuels, if you're thinking about that. So today, if you're talking about alternative energy sources, sometimes we're using biofuels where we're taking wood and we're burning wood instead of other materials, where we're using some bamboo material, kelp, or other components to produce actually energy. Whereas oil is a material which is a life form or a dead life form, which under pressure and temperature in anoxic conditions, so in conditions where we don't have oxygen, are starting to decay. And so out of the proteins from that material, we are producing something what we call kerosene. And kerosene is then converting under pressure and temperature into oil in a very specific window, in a very specific temperature and pressure environment, where we actually can produce that specific oil material. And so we are concentrating, we're distilling down that energy component which is produced during photosynthesis in plants and other materials in that. And we are concentrating, we're producing a high concentration. So oil is extremely strong in producing energy and heat, and what we are using to drive cars, driving a lot of our energy needs, what we have in our society.
So I think you touched on the process a little bit, but I'd love to talk a little bit more about exactly how oil forms and also the role of time in this. So you talk about things like you need this, material as a starting point. You said, I think, temperature. You said pressure. What is the process by which oil is forming? And this is something that's happened naturally over time. Yes, it's not something we're not making the oil.
Absolutely. It is a process where we actually have to think about it. It's some biological material. And the most bioactivity active area, a so-called passive margin. Like here in the Boston area, we are living on a passive margin. And then over millions of years, if you're thinking about that, it starts to process, gets buried by sediments and other material. And that sediment is producing pressure and temperature. As deeper we go in the earth, we are producing more and more pressure and temperature, what we're actually seeing in there. And so because of that pressure, which is the offload of the sedimentary material, we are starting to produce that kerosene I was talking about. The proteins within the plants is breaking down and rearranges itself because of that pressure and temperatures, and then produces that kerosene, which then can form gas and oil as we actually know it in that situation. So it takes millions of years to produce actually that specific material.
And I think, it is interesting. We are in a world and in a time where we hear big numbers all of the time, but I think it is difficult to really if you stop and actually think about it, it's pretty hard to get your head around the idea of millions of years, right? I mean, like recorded human history is a couple of thousand years. I mean, we're talking about multiple millions. How many millions are we talking about?
Oh, we are talking about several millions of years. So 5-6 million years, what we are actually thinking about that to produce actually that oil, what we're actually seeing in there. So if you're taking oil out, it doesn't get reproduced relatively easy.
Right.
And so if you're looking at the term of sustainability, which means we can actually reproduce this, we're taking material out in the same rate we can actually reproduce this. If you're taking oil out, we actually can't really reproduce this in our lifetime to actually produce these different components, what we're seeing in there.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with geoscience researcher Robert Buchwaldt about where oil comes from. So let's turn our attention to the Middle East. I mean, as we all know, there is a lot of oil in the ground underneath areas of the Middle East. So what is it about that place in particular that this process that you're talking about over millions of years happened, that there is so much oil there?
It's a very interesting area because it's more or less a perfect condition to produce actually oil as we actually see it today.
And what are those conditions that make it perfect?
Yeah, so it makes it perfect because 250 million years ago, so way, way back when the dinosaurs were walking actually the Earth, and it was actually before the dinosaur walked the Earth, in that there was a big, big ocean in that. And that ocean is called Tethys. And that Tethys ocean had a passive margin. So it's a margin which is not active, in contrast to the west coast of the United States, which is active, where we have a lot of earthquakes, where we have a lot of volcanoes and all these other components.
I see. Okay.
The east coast of the United States is not active, and it's more or less sediment from the land can actually go in there. And they have an area where there's really high bioactivity going on.
And 250 million years ago in this ocean, what was the what was alive back there in this ocean? What was the biomaterial?
Oh, we already had fish life, we had plants, we had different components. Life started in the ocean, and so we had some algae, some other components, what we're actually seeing in there. So all that material is actually depositing within that specific area. It's not a dead area. Life started 400 million years ago, and even life onto our Earth's surface or on the land was happening at a later point. So there was actually a high life activity in that. And the continental shelves, what I'm talking about in there, is actually the dominant bioactivity. This is actually the strongest biological active area on Earth and in the ocean, what we're actually seeing there in that.
Oh,
and so when that material dies, it also is a perfect condition because the ocean oxygen is only going to a specific depth in the ocean, and the continental shelves are below that component. So the dead material is settling at the bottom of the ocean, and it's an anoxic condition, and we have a high sediment activity. Therefore, we are producing a lot of pressure and temperature, that perfect pressure and temperature component in that, which then produces oil. And the next step on that entire story is, how do we protect that oil where it actually stays?
Yeah, how does it stay there? That was going to be my next question, which is to say, okay, so it forms, but I think we can all get our head around what oil looks like. It's viscous, it flows. So why doesn't it just spill out kind of
Great question,
anywhere?
Edgar. It's a great question. If you're thinking about that, oil is lighter than the surrounding, and therefore it percolates to the surface, and gas is associated with that oil that can also escape relatively easy. So we need some sort of component which is capping that specific material. And if you're in an ocean and you dry that ocean out, you're creating salt, and salt is impermeable for oil and gas, and therefore caps actually that specific material. And because the Tethys Ocean closed at around 60 million years, 70 million years ago, closed in that, it dried out, it created a cap, it sealed in the oil. And more or less the fundamental idea is now that if we're drilling into that specific component, the oil is coming out to the surface and we can mine it relatively easy. And so in the Middle East, the perfect condition is, because of tectonic situations and other environments, is that cap was not destroyed. And so it kept that specific material inside the ground. And so we can mine it today. A similar environment we have actually in Texas, where we have a mid-ocean continent, ocean in there. And we seal actually the surface air, and that's the reason why we find most of the oil in the United States in Texas and in these areas.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with geoscience researcher Robert Buchwaldt about where all the oil came from. I mean, when you explain it this way, that the sequence of events that needed to happen for this oil to be present in the amount that it is in this particular spot, then on top of that, for us to discover that oil is there, to figure out how to get it out of the ground, to realize it's useful in all of these different ways. It seems almost impossible that it would happen. And then on the other hand, you stop and you say, or is it inevitable that we work this out?
I think it is. As a geologist, we are, of course, worldwide looking, or if I would work in an oil company, I would work specifically in specific areas in the world. We have a relatively good idea how actually the Earth is working in this environment. So, for example, here in Massachusetts, we wouldn't actually go around and try to find oil in Massachusetts because the conditions are not correct. Whereas in Texas, in other components, we actually have the right conditions. And so if you're targeting these components, it's a relatively important part. And since we discovered oil, we know that it's high in energy, and we used it for different components. We used it for driving a car. The first car was used to take a distilled raw oil material and driving a car. So at that point, it's the innovation of people who are actually coming in there and to develop usefulness of the different components what we actually mining in our Earth. Everything what we are actually using is mined at some level from our Earth.
You know, when you talk about mining things from our Earth, you know, as you're describing, you have this process that is unfolding slowly over a course of millions of years. However, the extraction is happening at a rate that is significantly faster than that. So
absolutely,
what physically happens to the ground, which has, you know, presumably everything has kind of developed in concert with each other over this course of millions of years. There's some sort of balance in the situation down there. It seems to me as we extract that oil, we are disrupting that balance at a very quick rate. What happens to the ground when we pull the oil out?
It's a good question. So if you're thinking about it, a lot of times actually the ground is collapsing. So we are taking out the oil. There's an empty hole. Air doesn't have the strength to actually keep the ground up on the surface, and that material is collapsing. So if you go driving around Texas, you actually find a lot of sinkholes which are caused by extraction of oil and different areas. In Iran, in Saudi Arabia, you find places where actually the surface is collapsing and material is falling into these specific components in that, and we are creating sinkholes within the ground, what we're seing in there.
That sounds not great. Is that a problem? Like,
it is a major problem. It is actually a major problem. There are famous stories, if you're thinking about it, in California, in the area, they mined a lot of water out of the different areas. And so the ground sank by up to 12 feet down, what we're actually seeing in there. And so it actually went down. If you're going into Texas, there's just recently in the news, there was an oil hole which actually collapsed and sank in different areas in that. So it is a problem. Sometimes oil companies, for extracting actually the oil, what they actually do is there are 3 stages of oil extraction. The first one is you just pop a hole in that, and the oil is coming out. This is in the movies. Usually you see these kinds of situations.
We struck oil. We're going to be rich.
Oil, exactly. Oil in that. But only a small amount is actually coming out by overpressure. But And what then oil companies do a lot of times is that they're actually pumping water or other components into the ground and pushing the oil on out of the hole wherever they're actually extracting that. And then if they really want to mine to the extent that specific oil hole, they're sending specific really heavy duty chemicals into the ground to extract that specific material.
You listen to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with geoscience researcher Robert Buchwaldt about oil. Before I let you go, let's zoom back out to the big picture.
Sure.
Here we have oil. It's clearly incredibly valuable. It's at the crux of so many conflicts. It's only present in mass, as you pointed out, in limited number of places on the earth. Yet we continue to use it. What is it about oil that is so valuable?
Because it's such a concentration of energy. If you're starting to think about oil, or if you're thinking about a car, for example, a car is using oil as a driving source. We are putting gas and petrol into that car, And if you're thinking about the fundamental idea, a tank of gas is maybe a foot by a foot in that size. If you're using electric cars, half of the car is actually the battery. And so the energy is coming from the battery to produce the same amount of energy you're actually producing with a foot-by-foot footprint in that.
Efficiency.
And so oil and gas is such a strong energy component. And the car is using not a lot of energy. Let's think about aluminum production. You need a power plant to actually run that specific component. That's the reason why a lot of times aluminum production is associated to hydropower. But nevertheless, the fundamental idea in there is to produce that amount of energy, what we need as a society, because we are a relatively energy-hungry society in that. It's hard to replace the oil with any alternative energy source. I did a back-of-the-envelope calculation once to replace one oil power plant or gas power plant with solar power. You roughly have to take a third of the Amazon rainforest covered with solar panels to actually replace it with that amount of energy.
Wow. All right. We've been speaking with Robert Buchwaldt, consultant and senior researcher and scientist in geoscientists in the geosciences. Robert, thank you so much for being with the Curiosity Desk.
You're welcome.
Just want to mention a comment from Sophie on YouTube, who mentioned that in Pennsylvania, they used to swim in the strip mine areas that were mined out. I'm going to guess that's coal mining. I myself am from the coal country of Pennsylvania and have been swimming in plenty a strip mine. This is the Curiosity Desk. Stay with us. Just ahead from the reserves beneath our Earth's crust to a gas station in Quincy, where a violist has been serenading customers. As I said, it's the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Tune into The Culture Show for daily discourse on the arts and culture scene, and join us for what is a continuous conversation about the state of the arts with the most interesting thinkers, innovators, and creators in the region and beyond. From the poets to the painters to the power brokers who hold the purse strings. It's all here on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you and Bernadine Sung Megasin at Dream Mega International Realty, dedicated to helping buyers and sellers across Greater Boston, offering market insight and guidance through each step of the process. More at homesbybernadine.com. And Good Now Farms Chocolate, crafting single-origin chocolate made from directly sourced South American fine flavor cacao beans. Learn more about their crafting approach at goodnowfarms.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, as we all know all too well, much of that oil that we were just discussing with Robert Buchwaldt gets refined into petroleum and diesel, the lifeblood of the thousands of area gas stations, and the substance that gets many of us from here to there, wherever it is we are going. And these days, with the prices at the pump averaging around $4 a gallon, even a quick trip to the gas station can be a, shall we say, less than pleasant experience. Well, that is not okay with Harvey Kertzman. Kertzman is the owner of Quincy Gas, where he recently decided to hire violists to serenade his customers between the pumps. And yes, he insisted that it be the viola, and we will get to that in a second. But first, some introductions. We are joined now on Zoom from the gas station, it looks like, by Harvey and one of the violists, musician Carolyn Legia. Harvey, Carolyn, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
All right, Harvey, let's talk. What are you doing at your gas station here? This is crazy.
Well, we're having violas serenade the customers. I thought that would be a fun thing to do because buying gas today is not fun.
Yep, I mean, that's fair enough. Can we talk about why the viola? Because my understanding is you decided you wanted musicians, which itself I think is a pretty novel idea. But then you put the advertisement out there specifically saying we're looking for viola players. So what is it with the viola, Harvey?
The viola to me is the only instrument that when you hear a viola play, it makes you feel really nice and fine and wonderful inside. It's like a body massage from the inside out. It massages your heart. And when you hear viola play, you can only be grateful that you have all your senses. And it just makes you in a good mood all day when you hear a beautiful viola playing.
All right, speaking of viola playing, we're going to turn to Carolyn now. What do you think about what Harvey has to say about the viola? Agree?
Oh, absolutely. I started on violin, and my violin teacher figured out pretty quickly that I gravitated towards the low tones. My dad was a cellist, and I fell in love with it the same way Harvey did. Just my personal relationship with it is slightly different, but it's such a gorgeous instrument, and it has those really beautiful, rich, deep qualities that a cello has, but it also has a gorgeous upper register. There were people coming up to us as we were playing saying, I didn't know the viola was such a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, it sort of gets short shrift, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of violin players, a lot of cello players, not as many viola players.
Yeah.
So how did you get hooked up with Harvey in the gas station? How did you end up playing? What happened?
Oh my gosh. Well, about 5 different people sent me the Globe article. And it was such a unique request, but I thought it was really special and really important for the community. I'm sure you've heard the quote that museums are like jails for art. You can't get up close and personal with it. You need a ticket just to get in. And so how many people, what percentage of people in Quincy have access to live music on a daily basis?
Right.
And to be able to play something, just a snippet of something just for them is really special. And I think it can change someone's mood. It can change the trajectory of their whole day. And be really impactful.
Harvey, you're smiling ear to ear as you're listening to Carolyn here.
I never heard the museum analogy, but I think that's a great analogy. I never heard that.
What's the response been like at the gas station? So walk us through it. How many viola players have you had through? How often are they playing? When can people see them, etc.?
Well, as you see, the typical customer pulls up, and it only takes about 2.5 minutes to get gas for your car, and as you pull up, the viola stands here, about 10 feet away from the car. And the violists would serenade the customer as they're getting gas. And we do it 2 or 3 times a week for a couple of hours at a time. And then people from Boston, from Milton, and nobody from Quincy yet. And this Friday, we have a Jesuit priest violist that's going to come up. It's coming this Friday.
Wow. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Quincy gas station owner Harvey Kertzman, and one of the musicians he is hired to serenade his customers, violist Carolyn Legia. Carolyn, what's the experience been like playing there, and what pieces of music are you playing? You've only got a limited window of opportunity. As Harvey just said, you got 2.5 minutes with somebody pumping their gas. Are you trying to finish a tune for them, or what are you doing? What's your approach?
Yeah, so I think really tailoring it to the person and how they're responding. A lot of times just a movement of a Bach suite is the perfect amount of time. There was one time, my favorite interaction with a customer has actually been, I was playing something that was in a major key. It was fairly upbeat, but he asked me if I could play something to lift his spirits.
Wow.
And I read his energy, and sometimes what people need is catharsis. They need to be taken to the low to get back to the high. And so I chose Humoresque, which starts with this really lovely, almost like a child skipping kind of feel to it, and goes to a darker, very passionate place, and then has these really wistful, lyrical, sweeping lines. And it takes you through that full range, and then it goes back to the child skipping. And he had tears in his eyes, and he thanked me for it. I was very moved by it.
Yeah. And we should point out, we're pretty sure that the tears in his eyes were for the beautiful music and not the prices he was paying at the pump, as far as we know. Carolyn, when you're not playing gas stations, where else do you play your viola?
Well, I'm a freelancer, so it takes me all over. I play a lot of musical theater. My dad was a cellist in the Boston Symphony. He studied with Pablo Casals, and my mom was an actress. So to play string instruments in musical theater settings makes sense for me. I'm playing Swept Away at Speakeasy right now. We actually are intending to open very soon. But I work with orchestras. I play weddings. I work with youth theater programs. I work with professional groups, youth groups, senior community orchestras, like community orchestras for senior citizens, which I think is so lovely. And I am an assistant orchestra manager at the Rivers School Conservatory as well. So I work with kids ages 8 to 12 in the youngest orchestra there.
Nice.
It's a delight to play with them.
Harvey, I got to imagine that right now, given, gas prices and just the state of the economy in general, it's probably pretty tough being a gas station owner. Is the viola playing lifting your spirits and helping you get through the day as much as it is your customers?
Absolutely. I can't be happier than I am when one of the violas are playing because of the reaction on the customer. My reaction. It's you can be in a foul mood, and when you hear a pure viola's playing, it's a sound that can't be duplicated. Only the viola. A violin is a great instrument, but it's not as mellow as a viola, and the high notes in a violin, they're harsh. A viola is pure mellow, and when you hear a real pure mellow sound, there's nothing like it in the world.
Can you put your finger, Harvey, on when this like obvious like passion and love and like deep affinity for the sound of the viola? Do you have a sense of where it came from for you?
Well, I sang in Europe for 1 year, well, maybe 3 months. I toured Europe. I was in a choir called the Newton Chorale Society. Before that, it was something called the Concordia Youth Chorale back in the late 1967, 68. So I toured a dozen countries and I sang in a choir, and that's when my love of the viola really came.
Wow.
And then I want to have a viola here. I don't know if you can see this picture, but that's a picture from 2003. I had a guitarist play here. He did the same thing, and he wrote a song. A guy named Steve Murphy. He wrote a song called "The Gas Station Blues," and it was well received. He did great, and he was here he played for probably 6 months, and now I tried to get him to come back, but he had arthritis in his fingers, so he can't play anymore. And so that's when I switched to, might as well do my age-old love of a viola and go for viola. And and it ended up with some wonderful people like Caroline.
All right. Caroline, can you do us a favor? Unfortunately, we're just about out of time in this segment. Can we maybe hear a little viola as I read the goodbyes here? I just want to say thanks to you and Harvey Kertzman. Carolyn Legia is one of the musicians, the violists he's hired to serenade customers, and Harvey Kertzman is the Quincy gas station owner whose love for the viola is deep as it is wide. Thank you both. Pure mellow, as Harvey would say. We got a text from Jill in Needham who says, this is amazing. She knows Harvey and Quincy and Carolyn, the viola player. She just went to a great luncheon party on Monday where Carolyn was the musician. An anonymous texter says, what a lovely story. Thank you. I agree with you, anonymous texter. That was a lovely story. Stay with us. After a quick break, we're talking rain bombs. Yes, bombs, ahead of a new Nova documentary. We'll talk with one weather science expert and a real-life storm chaser. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. Stay with us.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, a year after an ICE raid at an Alston car wash, detained workers plan to take the federal government to court. Boston's air quality just got a failing grade, and immigration detention hits a historic high. NPR investigates a family held for nearly a year. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And My Grandma's of New England, handcrafted coffee cakes baked locally in Boston and available for corporate gift-giving in 12 varieties, delivered with a personalized company logo. Online ordering at mygrandma.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Oh my. When you hear that sound, the powerful winds, the crack of thunder, the second crack of thunder, we could not blame you if your brain went, wow, that's a thunderstorm. Maybe it's a hurricane. But it turns out there's a lesser-known weather phenomenon, arguably more terrifying and unpredictable, the rain bomb. Yes, the rain bomb, or more formally, a downburst. It is the focus of a new Nova documentary, Rain Bombs. So what are they? Where do they form? And why should we care? We're going to get into that now. With us via Zoom for that, from Arizona, professional photographer and storm chaser Mike Olbinski, and Colorado State University atmospheric scientist from Susan Vandenheven. Apologies. The new Nova documentary Rain Bombs premieres tonight at 9 on GBH2 and Nova's YouTube channel. Both Mike and Sue are featured in it. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Great to be with you today, Edgar. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Indeed. All right, Sue, I want to start with you. Can we just talk about, I mean, the term it obviously catches your attention right away, rain bomb, but like what is a rain bomb? What makes it different from just heavy rain? Like what the heck is this thing?
Yeah, Edgar, they're really severe features. They're produced by strong to severe thunderstorms, and they're a very narrow region of hurricane intensity subsiding winds that rush toward the surface. They often contain large amounts of hail and rain. And when these strong hurricane force winds hit the surface, they spread out, still at often hurricane force winds where they can create quite a lot of damage to infrastructure and threaten lives on the ground.
Can you, for folks who are not in the weather game the way you two are, when you say hurricane, I think we generally have a notion, but what about a rain bomb is different than a hurricane?
Yeah, so rain bombs are different from hurricanes in that they have two main differences. One, the wind is subsiding or rushing downward at very fast rates, whereas in a hurricane, the winds are often going upward or tend to be more horizontal in nature. And then with rain bombs, when they spread out at the surface, the winds are confined typically to very low levels. So if you're on the ground, you're often very strongly impacted by that. Whereas if you look at a hurricane, it's throughout much of the level of the atmosphere.
Gotcha. And what are the conditions under which these rain bombs form? Is there, is it a particular type of day that it forms on? Is there typically a place where it will form more than others?
Yeah, you'll find them in most regions where you get summer thunderstorms. They are produced by how you would think of as a regular thunderstorm. They found throughout the continental U.S. They like to be fed by a lot of water vapor because that gives them or allows them to produce a lot of rainfall and a lot of hail. But in dry regions, they become particularly intense because what makes them very cold and very dense, this air that rushes toward the surface, are processes like evaporation and melting. So in places like Arizona, where Mike does a lot of his photography, for example, this is a nice dry region. And in Colorado, where I work, there's a nice dry region. The cloud bases are very high and the evaporation is very efficient or effective. And that makes for very cold air, and hence these rain bombs are very intense.
All right, you gave me a nice segue to Mike. Mike, you chase these things and you photograph these things. What are you doing?
I just try not to be under them, as Sue would say. That is the wrong place to be. But yes, it's kind of hard to go chase downbursts, rain bombs, microbursts. You just kind of see them happen. The goal for me a lot of times is try to catch them before they start. So because I do a lot of time lapse, and so on the show tonight, you're going to see a lot of time lapses of that kind of phenomena, and that's what I really, really try to capture, and it's tough.
What is the sequence of events that leads to you today being like, now I chase storms for my photography? Like, what happened?
Dude, I don't even know. Like, I would like to tell you that I had a really good answer to that, but it's 15, 16 years later, and all I wanted to do was pick up a camera and learn how to shoot lightning, and grew up watching, Nova and PBS, and now here I am. But it's not really just that. I've really got a passion for this. I got a passion for photography and time lapse, and just the power and awe of storms. Time lapse is an amazing way to capture the fluidity of the atmosphere. I was just watching Apple screensaver last night of a wave crashing over my head, and it looks exactly like the underneath of a shelf cloud rolling by when you see it sped up on time lapse.
Yeah.
And it gives you this impression of the water that's over your head all the time that you don't see. So time lapse does the same thing. And for downbursts and microbursts and rain bombs, there's amazing time lapse of it crashing down, and then you actually see it spread out and you see the dust explode. It's awesome.
I want you to talk a little bit more about time. Like, I'm fascinated by time lapse photography as well, but I find it interesting in particular because, we have such access to video and high quality video to watch things kind of happen in real time. When you talk about a time lapse situation, you're sort of subtracting some of it from the picture, and somehow it seems like you're saying that gives you an understanding. I don't know if it's that it makes the sequence more powerful or gives you an understanding that you wouldn't have otherwise if you were watching it happen fully in real time. What is it about time lapse?
Yeah, it's absolutely. You look up at an exploding tower of cumulus, a cumulonimbus thunderstorm exploding, and you look at it and you're like, I know it's moving. I can kind of see it moving, but it's slow enough that I don't necessarily, if I look away and look back, it's changed. But if I'm looking at it, I don't, it's like a boiling pot of water never boils unless you look away, or whatever that thing is. Time lapse speeds it up where you actually see what's happening, and especially on exploding top of a thunderstorm. You just see it erupting and you realize the power that's behind that to create that. It looks like, a volcano erupting, a bomb going off. And that's just what time-lapse does. It's able to take things that to the naked eye are happening slower and speed it up so you get a real idea of actually what is happening.
You listen to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Mike Olbinski and Sue Vanden Heever about rain bombs. I'm going to play a little sound from this Nova documentary. This is sound of Lauren V. Hahn, who attended the Pukkelpop Festival in Belgium some years ago. It was a music festival where a rain bomb occurred, a deadly rain bomb, and she witnessed it firsthand. Let's hear a little.
Very quickly, within a couple of minutes, it became probably the heaviest rain I'd ever seen. You couldn't see anything really. There was wind blowing debris. It was very much a case of feeling like we were trapped. For it to turn from such a sunny, cloudless day to something apocalyptic in the space of 20 minutes is frightening. It's like something from a disaster movie.
Sue, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about just how deadly these storms can be, the kind of damage they can inflict. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it is. And that specific music event in Belgium was a very unusual scenario. It was a very narrow rain bomb. It was only about 100 meters wide, which makes them extremely difficult to predict, and it makes them very, very intense. So sadly, people lost their lives that day by virtue of this rain bomb knocking out the tents and the various infrastructure that they had set up for that music festival. But they threaten our lives in other ways. They're a big threat to aviation. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s over the US, more than 500 people lost their lives by virtue of planes flying into microbursts or downbursts or rain bombs. So it was a big threat to aviation before technology was introduced to address this. It's also, threatened shipping. For example, the publicized Bayesian event that occurred several years ago appears to have been rolled over by one of these outflow winds associated with a rain bomb. And then just basic threats to people on the ground. Mike referred to the outflow winds kicking up dust and so on. They can loft tremendous amounts of dust, vegetation, which is a challenge to visibility. It creates breathing issues and so on. So there are many ways we are impacted by rain bombs.
So are these a new phenomenon? Are they newly described? Are they getting more common? Why is this something that isn't more talked about or more well known as a phenomenon?
Yeah, I don't think there's so much a new phenomenon as more of the fact that people are becoming more aware of them by virtue of the technologies we have available for us to study them. Everyone carries a cell phone now, so people start capturing more imagery of them. It's the same with tornadoes. People started to think tornadoes were becoming more frequent, and I'm not saying they're not. What I'm saying is the public awareness of them has increased because everyone has a cell phone. So it's the same reason. Actually.
So, Mike, we were just talking about how dangerous these storms can be. How do you stay safe? How do you track them? How do you do it in a safe way? And do you ever get worried when you're doing this?
I've been worried a few times. I get worried of lightning and I get worried of flash flooding. The rain bombs, I'm mostly not under the rain because then my camera gets drenched and I don't get photos. So I tend to be safe. But I have been caught in, trying to race south of a supercell, and a supercell is a really big storm. And when we think of rain bombs and microbursts, we think of what Sue was talking about, like monsoon, kind of single storms that drop. But big supercells can also have areas where there will be a rain bomb out of that. And we got caught trying to race past the supercell. We thought we were past it, and all of a sudden it was just boom, wipe out, golf ball sized hail, zero visibility, have to stop in the road and wait because you can't see anything. And that was a little worrisome because it was getting pelted by golf ball sized hail.
You don't have to say because.
Minutes.
I think you could have just said that was a little worrisome. I think we would have all got it. You're like, no, it's a little worrisome, and I'll tell you why.
I've been stuck in heavy rain and strong winds and zero visibility dust. And so some things to me are not as scary. That was a little, I do tours, I take people with me. So I had people with me that day and I'm like, I just hope we didn't drive into something bad here.
Wait, you take people with you? Like just any old people? Like who do you take with you?
Oh, anybody. Usually people who are photographers. I run tours. It's actually a very little known tourist economy out on the Central Plains of the United States.
Storm
I take
chaser
3
tour
people.
economy?
Oh yeah. There's a bunch of them. Silver Linings Tours. Look it up. There, Roger Hill is the in the Guinness Book of World Records for most tornadoes seen. He usually has 3 vans chasing after storms full of people.
Yeah, I'm clearly an East Coast person. The two of you are like, yeah, of course, everybody knows that.
Duh.
Where have you been, Edgar?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, come on, man. Let's go, Edgar. Let's go.
So, sort of related to that, Mike, and I love a good phrase or a good name for something. And my producer told me to ask you about the stupid motorists law out there in Arizona, which is just a great name. What is the What's the stupid motorists law?
Well, obviously with these rain bombs and heavy rain, we get flash flooding. The desert gets flash flooding really fast. Ground is super dry. Water hits and just rushes off. And so here we have a law because people will cross flooded washes that are not flooded, but rushing water. And you're not supposed to. Turn around, don't drown. That's what you should do. Unless you really, really know that it's only a couple inches tall and you've seen a truck, whatever, but you probably still need to be careful. However, people aren't careful and they'll drive through it and they'll get washed away, taken out of their car, their whatever. So the police, the fire, the helicopters have to come and rescue them. And they have to pay for all of it because it's the stupid motorist law. If you do something like that, you're on the hook to pay for all these people having to come out and save your life.
It's pretty good. It's tough but fair. You break it, you buy it. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with Mike Olbinski and Sue Vanden Heever about rain bombs. Sue, what are you studying about them? What is there to learn, to continue to learn about these phenomenon?
Yeah, I guess given the intensity and the relatively small size, and I use the term relatively because there are other storm features that are larger, they're very difficult to predict. And so what we are doing is trying to enhance our forecasting capabilities with our forecasting models. But in order to do that, we need observations in the field. And so what we go out, and this is shown in the NOVA episode, we go out into the field, we use what we call a flying curtain of drones. So it's a stacked wall. You can think of it as a wall of drones. And we fly those and we release a lot of weather balloons into these outflows of cold air. They're called cold pools. And we're trying to understand what makes them very intense. Why are they so cold? Why do they travel so fast? What makes them as deep as they are? And when we get observations like that, we can then bring them back and evaluate our forecasting models and say, hey, we're not doing this very well. We need to do better on that, and so on. So those are some of the things we're after when studying these systems.
We got a little sound, a little more sound from that NOVA episode, which is premiering tonight. This is scientist Olivier Rees explaining the potential use of a special satellite to forecast rain bombs.
The aim is to improve the short-term nowcasting and also to provide alerts on a severe weather event on a very short term, within 1 or 2 hours, and within a very small area, on a valley or on a village or in a town. For us working on this project, we are convinced that we are in a position to save lives.
You know, we all love a good, solid, weather forecast, if for nothing else to help us plan our day or plan our weekend. But when it comes to extreme weather events, it can save lives. I mean, what ought people be doing, whether it be just your average citizen or a city planner or whoever it is, to be thinking about how we should be thinking about rain bombs and preparing for them?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a lot that can be done. And I think Mike obeys the first principles very well on this, is that you don't want to be under them, and you certainly don't want to be too close to them. And most forecasts give you a pretty good sense as to where sort of regional locations of severe weather is going to be occurring. But there's a lot of other things that are on the go. Clearly, groups like ours are looking to improve forecast models and hence give people more lead times in terms of predicting severe weather. But there's other things as well. For example, in the aviation area, this has been a classic example of where science has really got to applications, or where the rubber really hits the road, because following all of those aviation accidents in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they've now, across the continental US at all major airports, we now have Doppler radars installed in the towers. We have sensors around all the runways Since that's been done, we haven't in the continental US lost a single commercial flight due to planes flying through microbursts. So that's a phenomenal record. There have been aviation accidents more recently elsewhere in the world where such technology has not been available, sadly. And so, implementing technology like that is really helpful. It saves lives. People are also looking at structural, the structural integrities of different buildings and things. So there's a lot being done, actually. It's really cool to see.
Mike, before we let you go, where can I see your photography of rain bombs and other weather phenomenon?
You can just look at my name. You can look it up on YouTube and Instagram. That's pretty much where I post most of my stuff. But my name is my website and business, so that's easy enough.
All right. Well, that name is Mike Olbinski, photographer and professional storm chaser, who has joined us along with Colorado State scientist Sue Vanden Heever. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. It was a lot of fun.
Great. By the way, that Nova documentary Rain Bombs premieres tonight at 9 on GBH2 and Nova's YouTube channel. If you can't wait that long, check it out now at pbs.org. Speaking of things happening now, I am joined by the one and only Jared Bowen ahead of the latest Watch Party Wednesday at the Boston Public Library. How are you, Jared?
Oh, great, Edgar. We're just gearing up. We've all caught up on watching When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
That is our Wednesday Watch Party movie for this month. So if people have thoughts about the film, what they think about it, what they think about a very exciting climax to the film, shall we say, you can call it 617-300-3838. Of course, Callie and Joyce Haywick are here. We're going to be talking all about the film, and we very much welcome people's thoughts as they've either rewatched it or have great memories of the film.
I'm not going to ask you anything specific because we want to tune in to hear your thoughts on it, but I do wonder in general, when you rewatched it, were there surprises for you at all?
Well, as I've said on the show before, most of these movies I am watching for the first time since I saw it the very first time. So there are always revelations, which is really exciting.
All right, that's Jared Bowen of The Culture Show. Their Watch Party Wednesday live from the Boston Public Library is coming at you in about a minute and a half, so don't go anywhere. As for us, that's it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Lawson, Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels is our ever-steady hand. Our engineer, John LaClaw Parker, the one and only. Special thanks today to Andrew Massawa and Patrick Lally. We will be back here in 23 short hours on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, check out the podcast edition of the show. It is available wherever you find podcasts. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Windhorse Counseling, where they believe healing happens when it feels human. Counselors support children and adults through a collaborative approach and through the employment of therapy dogs. More about their team at windhorsecounseling.net. In the jungles of northwestern India, experience the story of a legendary tiger clan told by the man who devoted his life to keeping them alive. Watch Nature, Legendary Tigers of India, tonight at 8 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. We have sad news to report today, and we have happy news as well. Let's begin with the sad. The music world is mourning the death of guitar great Dave Mason. He had a career that one can only dream of. He co-founded the band Traffic. He collaborated with Jimi Hendrix. He's all over the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album. And he was a member of Eric Clapton's band Derek and the Dominoes. But the song that really put him on the map was Feelin' All Right, a song he wrote when he was 19 and released it on Traffic's Mr. Fantasy LP in 1968. A statement from Dave Mason's family reads in part, on Sunday, April 19, after cooking an amazing dinner with his beloved wife Winifred, he sat down to take a nap with Sweet Star, his pet Maltese, at his feet. He passed away peacefully in his favorite chair, surrounded by the beautiful Nevada Carson Valley that he loved so much. Dave Mason was 79. The happy news comes from our colleagues at NPR, who welcomed the immensely popular Noah Kahan for his first ever Tiny Desk concert.
I was working on a plan to disappear completely. Cast light on my friends, thinking I was busy.
The performance comes just a few days before the release of his much-anticipated new LP, The Great Divide, and 3 months ahead of 4 sold-out nights at Fenway Park in July. Here he is at NPR.
I'm just so excited to be here. We're all such huge fans of NPR. I grew up driving from Stratford to Hanover, New Hampshire, and there was never any cell service, so I would just listen to Lakshmi Sang. She's my president. And we're just grateful for what you guys do, and we love you, and we grew up watching these, so thank you so much. This is so cool.
That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Wednesday Afternoon Culturecast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show, with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Music is key to the next hour. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhaywick, an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association, and you can find her reviews at joyceschoices.com. Well, we're kicking off another Culture Show Wednesday watch party. It's our movie club, and today we're part of New York by way of one of the most beloved, debated, and endlessly rewatched romantic comedies ever made. Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron's 1989 film When Harry Met Sally. A love story that rises out of bookstores, bad first impressions, deli booths, and autumn walks with one epic question. Can men and women ever really just be friends?
Men and women can't be friends because no man can be friends with a woman that he finds attractive. He always wants to have sex with her.
So you're saying that a man can be friends with a woman he finds unattractive?
No, you pretty much want to nail him too.
Well, nearly 40 years on, When Harry Met Sally still sits at the center of the rom-com canon. It made Meg Ryan the face of a new kind of romantic comedy heroine, gave Billy Crystal one of his defining roles, and turned a conversation about sex, friendship, and coupledom into something funny, sharp, and surprisingly sincere. Now in 2026, we're asking you, does it still hold up? Does it take on men and women, feel true, outdated, a little of both? 617-300-3838, 617-300-3838. That is the number to call or text us for your thoughts. For a movie that came out just before dating moved online, does a world of chance encounters and friends setting up friends still resonate? Again, you can call or text us at 617-300-3838. Or if you're here at the library, step up to our crowd mic. Don't be shy. In the spirit of the movie, pretend it's a karaoke machine. Again, our number is 617-300-3838 to call or text. Well, like pretty much all of the movies we talked about on our Wednesday watch party, this is the first time I have seen this movie since seeing it probably in my teenage years, when I now understand how little I understood. So now I went back and watched this movie and thought, oh yeah, I get it. This all makes sense now. And what I most appreciated, and we'll go into the whole backstory, but the writing in this film. Yes, you have great actors, but the writing in this film, the story that's being told, how it's told, the dialogue, the dissection of life and romance and sex, brilliant.
Sparkling dialogue.
Yes.
That's the word
Yes,
I would
yes,
use. It's
yes.
sparkling dialogue. For anybody who is, and by the way, it holds up. Let me start there. It holds up. It holds up. I've watched it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Oh, wow.
And yet this last
Yeah.
go round, I saw something I hadn't seen before.
Oh?
It's always amazing, which I'll bring up shortly. But the dialogue, the music that is perfectly positioned and chosen for these scenes. And let's just talk about the acting. And of course, if you talk about the acting, you have to talk about the directing by the brilliant Rob Reiner. And when we talk about that, where that sparkling dialogue came from, it came from her pen, not just writing it sort of making up a story as she went along, as you might as a writer, she spent hours, almost, it's anthropology, interviewing folks.
Nora Ephron, you're talking.
Nora Ephron, the writer. She interviewed the production team about their lives, but she mostly focused on, for the Billy Crystal character, around Andrew Scheinman and Rob Reiner's relationship, and it went on from there. We can talk more about it, but just to say that she married all of that interviewing, that Anna DuVernay, if you will, of it all, and put it into the script, and it just is brilliant.
Absolutely tight script, dazzling dialogue. What I was thinking about all the things I'd forgotten about this movie. I had forgotten that it didn't begin with Harry meeting Sally. Right. It actually began with this sort of documentary-styled older couple sitting there talking about how they met and how they'd been married for 50 years, and so suddenly we know where this is going. So stylistically, this is already funny. It's breaking the fourth wall. I mean, how funny it is just out of the gate. I mean, the dialogue is so dazzling. I forgot how much I missed Meg Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, wow, do I miss Meg Ryan? I don't necessarily miss all the hairdos, the big shoulders. I've worn all that today, the little ties, the hats. She does owe something to Diane Keaton and Annie Hall. I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the ways in which this sort of derives from the 1977 film. This is a very different kind of rom-com, though. This is upbeat. This is really a fantasy. It's an incredible fantasy, which is why I think everybody feels it's like such a big warm blanket. Their chemistry, the way it works out, but the tightness of that script also surprised me. The recurring scenes, the recurring jokes, the the seasonal stuff that helps you sort of place it in time. I also forgot that it took place over 10 years.
Yeah, well, 12 at the end.
Yeah,
yes,
I did not remember that there was 5 years
That's right.
between the first time they met, the second time they met, and then the next time they met.
And they're pivotal years because it's the college years into your 20s, and then really fully on adulting in your early 30s.
Which makes a huge difference.
It does.
And Nora was able to capture that, as were Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, to do it. I want to just emphasize something to the both of you that I keep complaining about for these modern films that allegedly are rom-coms. That means romantic comedy. That means both halves of that are supposed to be good. It has to be funny and it has to be romantic. This is a true rom-com.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to take us back to, first of all, again, our number is 617-300-3838. You can either call that number, text that number, or if you're here at the Boston Public Library or want to run down past all the barricades for the running marathoners, you can be here at our crowd mic at the Boston Public Library. But I want to take us back to the concept that we're introduced to at the very beginning of the film, or the almost very beginning of the film, when Harry meets Sally, and you have this straight man and this straight woman coming together and having this struggle, this debate over whether women and men can actually be friends. So here's Harry and Sally on their car ride from Chicago when they're leaving their college years to New York, when Sally pushes back on Harry's suggestion that women and men cannot be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
That's not true. I have a number of men friends, and there is no sex involved.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You only think you do.
You're saying I'm having sex with these men without my knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is they all want to have sex with you.
They do not.
Do too.
They do not.
Do too.
How do you know?
Because no man can be friends with a woman that he finds attractive. He always wants to have sex with her.
So you're saying that a man can be friends with a woman he finds unattractive?
No, you pretty much want to nail him too.
So, as I went back and watched it this morning, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, wow, it's fascinating that Nora Ephron is writing the male character. But to your point, Callie, she was certainly doing the writing, although Rob Reiner and the producer, Andrew Scheinman, whom you mentioned earlier, also contributed to the script. But it was her conversations, and especially with Rob Reiner, who had gone through this 10-year period where he had been married to Penny Marshall, then that marriage broke up. He had these phone calls with Billy Crystal in the middle of the night, phone calls that Harry and Sally would later have. But also, Rob Reiner was getting back on his feet. So Nora Ephron was able to trail all of this and trace all of this. And so this is why we see the male perspective so ably come through in this film.
And Billy Crystal also contributed in she had many conversations. So
many
he weighed in
conversations.
on
well,
that.
He improvised the entire last scene.
Yes, yeah.
But also, to your point about the writing of this and how it followed Rob Reiner, the ending was originally different.
That's right.
Which actually came out recently because of Rob Reiner's passing. So there was an awful lot of anecdotal information that we got. But apparently he was divorced and unhappy, and in fact, at the end, he had Harry and Sally walking their separate ways. He met his prospective wife, Michelle. They fell in love during the making of this movie, and they changed the ending so that Harry and Sally would be together.
She persuaded him,
yes, apparently so.
Yes.
So kind of very interesting. And also, one more little interesting detail. Do you know that Tom Hanks was originally asked to play this part?
A whole bunch of people that you just can't imagine.
I mean, Tom Hanks turned it down because he had just gone through a divorce and was perfectly happy. So he could not relate. He could not relate.
And Molly Ringwald apparently was the top choice to play Sally because Meg Ryan hadn't had a lead role yet. So, of course, they wanted bankability, but they took a risk with Meg Ryan.
This all worked
that would
out
have been
for
a
the
whole
best.
different thing.
Yes,
Oh, yeah. So let's just also talk about the fact that this was revolutionary. That is the terminology that some critics use in its dealing with subject matter, like the candid conversations about sex, which are laced all the way through the film. That it's hard for us now when we got HBO and everybody else with no clothes on to realize at that moment that this was not what you would see in the theater. And so I want to just go back to that ride back from when Sally and Harry are coming on that ride from college. The scene early on there, they established they're going to be talking about sex a lot in this movie. Harry and Sally stop at a diner on their way to New York, debating the merits of Sally's recent intimate encounter with a man named Sheldon.
It just so happens that I have had plenty of good sex.
With whom?
What?
With whom did you have this great sex?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Fine, don't tell me.
Shell Gordon.
Sheldon? No, you did not have great sex with Sheldon.
I did too.
No, you didn't. A Sheldon can do your income taxes. If you need a root canal, Sheldon's your man. But humping and pumping is not Sheldon's strong suit. It's the name. Do it to me, Sheldon. You're an animal, Sheldon. Ride me, big Sheldon. Doesn't work.
I just scream with laughter every time. I can read it on the page
dying.
and laugh.
I am dying, and apologies to anybody named Sheldon out there. But I got to say, this speaks to the writing. I mean, there's some things that are funny. Sheldon is funny.
And the way that Billy Crystal says it. All right, so here's my revelation about that scene.
Okay.
All right, so remember, that's the beginning, and many, many years later, they're going to be in another diner, right? So in this diner, when you watch the movie, they enter the space. She says the line about, "I just so happens I have had good sex." Everybody in the diner is like, E.F. Hutton, looking at her, okay? And then, so that's one thing that, forecasts what's going to happen later in the movie. And then when they sit down, the framing of the shot is exactly the same. She's on the same side as he is, and they're having this conversation about sex, which then evolves, as we'll come to much later, into an even more explicit conversation years later. I had never noticed that.
I'm so glad you bring that up because that is one of the things that occurred to me. By the way, we will be talking about that scene. We're gonna work our way up to that. We're gonna have a little. Well, okay, I'll stop the sexual double entendre before I get myself fired. But I was watching this film and I was thinking this was craft. This film was really craft. It was craft in the way Nora Ephron wrote this. Listen to her grammar as I sit across from the former English teacher and Joyce Scull-Haywick. I appreciated the grammar. I appreciated the thought about these shots and how they were framed. The editing. There's a scene that comes later on when they really come together at that dance. and the camera is spinning around, and you see each of their faces. You see one of their faces, and you understand that, oh, wait, they just realized they're probably in love, and then you can't wait to see the other face. Just how deliberate and how well-crafted this film was in every regard, from the sets. If you remember, there's a scene in a bookstore.
Yep.
The books are it's completely populated with books about relationships and men and women. It's omnipresent in their lives.
Actually, one of the funniest edits in this movie, and admittedly, the way these shots are set up, one of the funniest edits is right after they do it. The camera is on her. Tight shot. She's lying there smiling and with her eyes closed, and it slowly pans over to him, and his eyes are wide open, and he looks like he's in a state of shock.
Because he is.
Hysterical.
Yeah.
The other scene that really struck me is his use of that split screen where they're both watching Casablanca.
Beautiful.
And at first you see it, and it's shot from the back, and their two heads are together. And I thought they were sitting there together watching the movie. The camera flips around, and you realize, oh, no, they're not together. They're in their separate apartments on the phone talking about this. But what that conveys is that they're, in fact, really in bed together already. They don't even know it, and they're already a couple. So this camera work is doing something way more than just capturing a shot. It's conveying information about things that they're not even aware of yet, but Reiner's telegraphing to us.
And I had already noticed, this is how I knew they weren't in bed together, that it was a split screen, because her apartment is yellow and bright, and behind her bed is a museum gallery poster, because as he accuses her earlier in the film, she's just happy, and nothing really bad has happened in her life, so she just kind of is this wonderful spirit gliding along, whereas his apartment is gray. He's in dark sweats, and he's rolling out a dark rug. In Soho, it seems, with the dark windows and the dark skyscape outside.
Very angular.
Can we talk about those apartments, though?
Yeah.
Where are these two people going to get apartments like his had, like extraordinarily arched windows with 14-foot high ceilings and columns, and she's in this adorable, spacious apartment? No, that would not happen now.
I was looking at the kitchen.
Well,
her kitchen.
Oh, the kitchens are always small.
That's kind of real.
The kitchens are always small in New York, but the big living spaces.
Now remember, he was with Helen when he had the big living space. So she made bucks, and he was a political campaign guy. So
very
he
little emphasis on what they did for a living. Exactly. Another sign of the times. This is very different from Annie Hall, which I do use as a reference point, and I think that was the groundbreaker. This takes it in a different direction.
We'll take a little moment with the Woody Allen comparison, and then go to our first caller. And again, our number is 617-300-3838. I also noticed that. I mean, the use of New York, and especially how Meg Ryan is dressed in certain scenes, it's straight out of the Diane Keaton closet from Annie Hall.
With the hats.
The hats.
And it's looking at men and women in relationships, but a different kind. It's Rob Reiner's humor, Nora Ephron's humor, not Woody Allen humor.
Exactly. It's still its own thing. I mean, I would say stylistically it shares certain similarities in the way it's shot, but it's talking about something very different, and it's referring to the culture in a very different way. I mean, the 70s were very rebellious, the late 70s. There was a lot of turbulence going on in the culture. In the 80s, things got a lot more conservative, and you've got a bunch of women sitting around a table talking about getting married, finding a man. Every conversation is about that, with a de-emphasis on what they do. She's a journalist. We don't know what she writes, how she writes
she
it.
doesn't like Jimmy Breslin. We know that. She says that.
That's
I just want
it,
to just say that in the DVD's making of documentary, Ephron says there are two traditions of romantic comedy, the Christian tradition and the Jewish tradition. In the Christian tradition, there is a genuine obstacle. In the Jewish tradition, pioneered by Woody Allen, the basic obstacle is the neurosis of the male character. But she says they go further with she and Reiner than Allen does, and apply it to both Harry and Sally. So just to make that connection.
I actually kind of disagree. But
well,
I mean,
she wrote it.
I mean, no. I mean, I disagree with her conclusion.
Okay.
I would agree that those things are different. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, before we go to break, let's go to our first caller. We have Bob on the phone from Providence, Rhode Island. Hi, Bob.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, absolutely. What are your thoughts about when Harry met Sally in this age?
Well, it's a timeless movie. I just watched it recently with my wife. We've been married for 30 years.
Oh.
And we've shown it to our kids, and they love it. I can say to my 23-year-old, "What, do you have a hot date?" That cracks him up. So, well, when we watched it recently, we were just thinking about how people meet each other these days, because when we met in San Francisco, when we were in our 20s, people would just meet in bars and things. They would just or they would say, "Oh, I'm going to go to this place. We'll see you there." And now that doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of interesting in that respect. But it's a timeless movie. It's a great movie. It's beautifully written. One of my favorite parts of the movie is when Billy Crystal says, "I have a theory about the hieroglyphics, that they're really a cartoon about a character called Sphinxy."
It's perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect. This caller could be one of the couples. Could be
Yeah,
one of the couples.
exactly.
They've been married 30 years. And
That's right.
thinks
One of
about
the
he could
testimonial
be in the
couples.
movie. Yeah.
I know. Do we have time for that before we go to break? One of the couple interviews?
So if people haven't watched the film in a little while, what has happened, or how the film starts and then how it's populated throughout, is we have a series of older couples who are talking directly to camera, telling their life stories. And so here we have one of those testimonials that give us an insight into the longevity of love.
My family moved to the Bronx
He
when I
lived
was
on
10.
Fordham Road.
Hers moved when she was
I
11.
lived on 183rd Street.
For 6 years, she worked on the 15th
I worked for
floor
a very prominent
as a nurse,
neurologist.
where I had to
Dr.
practice
Bemelman.
on the 14th floor, the very same building.
Never met.
Never met.
Can you imagine that?
You know where we met? In an elevator.
I was visiting
In
family.
the Ambassador Hotel in Chicago,
He was on the
Illinois.
3rd floor. I was on the 12th.
I rode up 9 extra floors just to keep talking to her.
9 extra floors.
That is my very favorite of the couple scenes. That 9 extra floors just gets me. This story is probably a real story from one of the production people.
Oh.
Because she interviewed them for their stories.
And you touch on something
Yeah.
really important here, because they do sound like real stories, and they very well probably are real stories.
She just crafted them.
Which is what
Yeah.
grounds this movie in a certain kind of very touching, accessible, human, warm reality. And yet it also feels timeless and universal. And this is what happens when you drill down on the specific. You find everybody has this. And Nora Ephron is actually just kind of giving us the details of Harry and Sally's meeting all the way through. And of course, they're the last couple that show up. And they've got the same but different and very specific story. Everybody can relate here. Eminently relatable.
And I love it because their telling of the story overlaps. I often thought about my parents. If you ask them, they would, no, that's not what happened. No, then what? So it's overlapping.
Almost like finishing each other's sentences, but not quite just like Harry and Sally do with their dialogue all the time.
Well, and they fit Callie's formula of a romantic comedy, because even when we see strife between Harry and Sally, we know that there's a full context of foundational love throughout this movie that's going to carry us through. Well, we're talking about the 1989 film When Harry Met Sally. I'm joined by Callie Crossley and Joyce Kulhawick, and we want your take on this rom-com classic. Is it still as funny, smart, and swoony as ever, or does it play differently now? You can call or text us at 617-300-3838. Again, the number is 617-300-3838. The conversation continues on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, a year after an ICE raid at an Alston car wash, detained workers plan to take the federal government to court. Boston's air quality just got a failing grade, and immigration detention hits a historic high. NPR investigates a family held for nearly a year. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you,
And Speakeasy Stage, presenting Swept Away. 4 New Bedford whalers must confront who they are and what they've done as they fight to survive a shipwreck, with music by the Avett Brothers. Opens April 24th. SpeakeasyStage.com. And Boston Children's Museum. Families can spring into play during April Vacation Week, April 20th through 26th, with cardboard creations, dress-up, singing, and dancing. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org. And Gentle Giant Moving and Storage Company, offering local, long-distance office and piano moving with 23 locations throughout New England and across the country. More information at gentlegiant.com.
Stay connected to your community. Get breaking local news, in-depth stories, and stream GBH 89.7 all in one place. Download the GBH News app on the App Store or Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel and live from the Boston Public Library, from the Newsfeed Cafe, which we're standing right next to, and you can have there what she's having. If you're just tuning in, welcome to our Wednesday watch party. Today we're revisiting When Harry Met Sally, a film of crisp fall walks, crowded delis, split-screen phone calls, and Harry Connick Jr. standards drifting through a romantic, autumnal, and idealized Manhattan. It helped define the modern romantic comedy, and it still shapes how movies talk about love, friendship, and that blurry line in between. Its premise was especially resonant at the end of the 1980s, a man and a woman making their way through relationships and breakups, trying to figure out whether emotional intimacy is destined to turn into physical intimacy. It's also a movie about time, about how adulthood doesn't arrive all at once, and how love can look very different at 32 than it did at 22. We want to hear from you. Does When Harry Met Sally still feel emotionally honest? Call us at 617-300-3838. 617-300-3838. Does Harry's central argument hold up? Again, our number is 617-300-3838. We have Tricia from Lexington who just texted to say, my 29-year-old son Carter got engaged about a week ago, quoting the line, when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. His now fiancée, Mallory, said yes, which is so sweet. Congratulations to Carter and Mallory and Mom Tricia. Well, one of the reasons I love this film, too, is the reasons we read, the reasons we watch movies, and that's to understand people, to get outside of ourselves and to get inside of other people. So here's a clip from the movie where we're really understanding the mind of Harry again. Here, Harry and Sally are at an airport 5 years after their drive to New York City. So again, this moves along in time, and they're discussing his reasons for getting married.
Plus, you just get to a certain point where you get tired of the whole thing.
What whole thing?
The whole life of a single guy thing. You meet someone, you have the safe lunch, you decide you like each other enough to move on to dinner. You go dancing, you do the white man's overbite, go back to her place, you have sex, and the minute you're finished, you know what goes through your mind? How long do I have to lie here and hold her before I can get up and go home? Is 30 seconds enough?
That's what you're thinking? Is that true?
Sure. All men think that. How long do you like to be held afterwards? All night, right? See, that's the problem. Somewhere between 30 seconds and all night is your problem.
I don't have the problem.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, how many women can probably identify with their husband, or women for that matter,
all
thinking...
All of them. You know what's remarkable? How relevant a lot of these conversations still are. This is the crux of one, too. It's the whole sex part, sex versus friendship.
Yes.
People still really wrangle with that, talk about that, et cetera, et cetera. And this movie, kind of... allows this a lot of air, as you were saying, Callie. I mean, about how these are very direct, blunt, accessible conversations that we see these two having, and of course they tie it up in a bow.
Yeah.
This all works out beautifully in the end, which isn't always necessarily the case. Hence the rom-com.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think one of the things that often sends relationships off the rails is lack of communication. And one of the things that he emphasizes, Nora does as she writes, really how they communicate with each other. And because there was low stakes for each of them, meaning we're going to be friends but nothing more, they can express and say things to each other, as he makes clear in the film, that they wouldn't if he was trying to date her or be in some other kind of relationship other than platonic.
And in fact, it is kind of their foreplay. I
Yes.
mean, one would have to say, because these two never stop talking.
Well, it's
and in
true.
fact, they are having almost the same argument and the same conversation over 10 years, over and over again, because they have, out of the gate, got under each other's skin. They can't let it go, so that they pick up right where they left off. Even if it's 5 years later, they're still arguing about something. She's taking one position, he's taking another, and usually it's about the same kind of conversation.
I think there's something else, too. Billy Crystal, as we know, is a comedian in real life, but he's funny. And there was apparently only one really bad review of this movie at the time, and the critics said, you know, who's going to believe him as a romantic lead? And what a lot of men don't get, if you are funny, that is an aphrodisiac for most women. If you are a funny guy, I mean, that sincerely, I don't mean, fake funny. But
I got it. And I would
that
agree.
That is so amazingly romantic. And,
I would also say, though, to Billy Crystal's credit, in which people didn't understand exactly how he could be such a romantic lead. We know he's funny, and he handles these, the dialogue between them. They're almost like a comedy duo. She's like the straight man, and he's the guy that's always putting the punchline on it. She says, well, Chaplin can have a baby when he's 73. And Crystal says, yeah, but then he can't pick him up. He's too old, But what Crystal demonstrates here is a real kind of seriousness, gravitas, and tenderness that we never saw from him before, and that actually made it even more affecting.
Absolutely.
And made this absolutely work. We saw he could do both. He had just actually come off of doing The Princess Bride, where he had that very funny character.
Yes,
and we
and
all
very
knew,
odd.
Yeah,
Yes.
very strange and very
Yes.
strange. But no, Crystal was genius in this.
You know
Very
what?
much.
You just used the word tender, and where I saw that, and where I thought this movie was incredibly smart and ahead of its time, because, so it's the scene where Sally and Harry are coming together, and they kiss for the first time, and she's in this very fragile moment because, all right, I'm going to derail myself for a second, because she's just realized that Joe, the man with whom she had been with, is getting married, and suddenly it breaks her apart. Did you know who Joe is played by?
No.
Did you know which president's son played
No.
Joe?
Who?
Gerald and Betty Ford's son, Stephen Ford,
Oh, my God.
played Joe. I came across that this morning.
Is he an actor? Was he an actor?
He was an actor, yeah. And
Wow.
very, very handsome. I mean,
Yeah.
when,
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
when you
Hard
see
for
those two at the airport when they're Sally and Joe are still a couple, it's very sweet. So anyway, that was my little
Wow,
trivia.
that's
How
a good
interesting. And
one.
then he sort of tripped on the way out of the airport.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Wow.
Kidding.
Yeah.
No, but
okay.
going back to the
80s
tender,
Look it up,
Yes.
kids. There's a
I was
historical
just gonna
reference.
say, look it up.
I think Saturday Night Live, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Chevy
yes.
Chase.
Yes.
So, but going back to the tenderness, when
Yeah.
she is really, really, really sincerely upset because it's just hit her that her former lover has moved on and she's not, and she calls Harry to come over, and they kiss for the first time. It's a real kiss.
Yeah.
We have already talked about this in some of the films that we've gone back and looked at, and there are uncomfortable moments like Groundhog Day,
Yes.
where it is presumptuous and the male is acting
Yes.
untoward.
We're not quite sure about the consent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was not. I mean, you see the real wonderful blossoming of their romance in a way where they're each pathfinding and making sure that they're respectfully finding their way to each other. I mean, this isn't so explicitly laid out, but you just see it with two phenomenal actors.
It's a beautiful, beautiful moment because he's meeting her emotionally and not just physically.
Yeah.
He's not just sexual.
Something that she helped him get to, a place she helped him get to.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he would have
Right.
been just the guy that he and
Yeah.
Jess, his best friend,
And
would.
he knew to hang in there with her. There was
Yeah.
something about her that
Yeah.
he could not leave alone.
Yeah.
And they kept coming back. They kept coming back.
Well, our number is 617-338-3838. 617-338-3838.
That kiss through you.
Let's go to Melanie in Rhode Island. Hi, Melanie.
Hello. I just wanted to tell you how fantastic I think these movie club shows are. And I've listened to all of them, and I so appreciate them because I don't live close to the Boston area, and it's so nice to be able to participate and hear things in a movie that I can watch on some platform. And I just think the movie is brilliant. And I couldn't get over the evolution of the characters and how you see them after years. And she was so optimistic, and then he was so pessimistic, and it was just great. But want to tell you, you guys are doing fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I love your show.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you being part of our club.
Call again.
Yes.
I mean, one of my favorite scenes where you see that evolution and where you see Billy Crystal being Billy Crystal for a moment is the scene in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And again, this is where they've moved along in their relationship. And they visit the Temple of Dendor inside the Met, and it highlights where Billy Crystal can always take us.
I have decided that for the rest of the day, we are going to talk like this.
Like this?
No, please, to repeat after me. Pepper.
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 Pepper. Pepper.
Pepper.
Waiter, there is too much pepper on my paprikash.
Waiter,
There is too much pepper on my paprikash.
on my paprikash.
But I would be proud to partake of your pecan pie.
Oh, no.
But I would be proud
But I would be proud
to partake
of
your pecan pie.
Of your pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
So clearly at that upcoming wedding of Trish's son and his new fiance, they're going to have to serve pecan pie. I mean, this is just so delightful to see
really
these
is.
two actors. And again, this is Meg Ryan very early on in her career. This was the movie that would springboard Meg Ryan into Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, and she would go on to become...
Yeah, where she does play opposite Tom Hanks, and it's a very different kind of vibe.
Very
Yeah.
good, very different.
But, I miss her. I just miss her so much and forgot just how delightful an actress she was. And even though she is sort of reminiscent of a Diane Keaton, she is her own creature. She's her own brand of adorableness and cuteness and very specific and completely believable.
Completely believable because she's also so human, and she's a little bit klutzy. She's not quite, she's a pretty girl, but she's not quite perfect in that, and that makes everybody feel accessible to her, and she is able to express the vulnerability on her face at toward the very last scene in the movie when he comes to talk to her. I'm always struck by she sees him and she sets her face like, what the hell? And then the minute then she's like, he will not see me that way. And you watch her do it on her face. No words. And she's an amazing actress. She really is.
Remarkable.
We have Jennifer from Fairhaven who texts, I'm sitting in my car in front of Marshall's and can't leave because of the conversation about When Harry Met Sally. So well crafted, outstanding. It is near perfect in every category. It's the best. And we haven't even talked about the category of Carrie Fisher yet.
Yes.
That's a whole other category.
Yes, let's do it.
But let's go to Emily calling from Clinton. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
You're on the Air for Culture show. What do you think of When Harry Met Sally?
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm 26 years old, and I think that really just speaks to how it can span across the generations of fans. And it's just like you guys were saying, the dazzling dialogue, the realism that it's grounded in all throughout. It just, you can't help but fall in love with this movie when you watch it.
She even calls out 26 years old in the movie. Don't listen to me, Joe. I'm 26 years old. And I'm
Emily, thank you.
Exactly. I mean, they really speak. They really, and each they're playing those different ages so well, where you believe that they are those ages, even if they do look a little too old.
Well, you know what? I'm so glad you brought that up. He was 41 years old when he did this movie. She was 27.
He was 41?
I know.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I read that, but I think it works. I still think it works. He looks younger to me than 41.
Yes, he does.
And they do have that funny scene where when she's crying, she says, "Well, I'm going to be 40." He goes, "You are? When?" And she said, "Well, how old are you now? 32? Well, sometime." But I love that the caller is 26, and you could still identify with the sexual politics here?
Oh, immediately, yes. It's still just, I mean, it's in some spaces, yes, very much more open and we talk about it. But I think that's like where a lot of these more, as they call it, rom-coms kind of fall flat in these day and age, where they focus so much on the sex and almost more in the crude, lewd sort of way.
Thank you.
And you lose the heart and the tenderness, like we were discussing earlier, that you get from these more funny, but not in like the embracing of sex sort of way.
Are you a movie critic by any chance?
You got this.
Because yes, you've really put your finger on what's wrong with a lot of stuff right now. Yeah, just sensationalized and surface, and this is about something else.
Oh. Again, Emily, thank you so much for the call. And it seems like Jennifer is doubling up. She texted us in front of Marshall's, and I believe we also have her on the line.
Did she buy anything at Marshall's?
She hasn't gone in yet. This is Jennifer from Fairhaven. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for calling into the show.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
I'm sitting in my car. This subject, this movie, I just think it gives us permission to be imperfect in a relationship. That what it really is just, it is what it all boils down to the fact it really is a friendship that does other things. And if you can't be friends, if you can't, it just isn't something you can do. I think it's really hard to be, and it's just not easy. It's not an easy situation to be with someone and commit for a very long time unless you've got that base.
This is such an important point. I'm
totally
so
important.
glad you said this. Is it Jennifer?
Jennifer.
Yes.
Jennifer. Yeah, because in fact we all want to think that, it's all going to be perfect, but what he loves about her are her imperfections. And he says that, so beautifully, which is like the whole movie in that last paragraph that he delivers to her. I love the way I can't remember all the specifics.
Right.
I think we're going to play it, but they love each other's imperfections. And I think you actually love them more because of those things. It makes them who they are. And that's what this film is about.
And the imperfection comes in trying to maintain the friendship, too, because Jennifer just kind of cracked open an understanding that I had this morning. To be honest, because I saw it so long ago and hadn't seen it since, I didn't remember how it ended. And I realize now, after listening to Jennifer, I only cared about the friendship. For me, it wasn't about making sure they got to the romance part of it. You just didn't want to see this really fabulous friendship break up, and you see it in them. They didn't want to see it break up. And when they started to see that harm, that's when they came apart, because they just couldn't be hurt on that level as friends.
Well, also just the getting to know each other. I love the early scenes when they're going around New York, the sanitized New York that Joyce would point out, but also spending time with each other. So I want to go back to the scene that you mentioned when they're watching Casablanca on the split screen, and what observation he makes about her, because he's really gotten to know her. Here's the scene when Harry and Sally call each other while watching Casablanca on TV.
There are two kinds of women, high maintenance and low maintenance.
And Ingrid Bergman is low maintenance?
And LM, definitely.
Which one am I?
You're the worst kind. You're high maintenance, but you think you're low maintenance.
I don't see that.
You don't see that? Waiter, I'll begin with the house salad, but I don't want the regular dressing. I'll have the balsamic vinegar and oil, but on the side. And then the salmon with the mustard sauce, but I want the mustard sauce on the side. On the side is a very big thing for you.
Well, I just want it the way I want it.
I know. High maintenance.
High maintenance, exactly. I love it.
I love it, too.
And do you know where that came from? Apparently, when Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron were meeting to discuss this film, which they did over many years, he began to notice that Nora Ephron would order that way. And Meg Ryan later said she didn't realize you could do that. Of course, everybody does it now. When you gluten-free or this or that, everybody. So it was eye-opening for everybody.
I was just thinking about another sort of nod to imperfection that comes up in the movie, and it's where the couples, the older couples, are popped out. There's actually a progression there of all those couples till finally the very last couple. It isn't exactly perfect. They've been married and divorced 3 times.
That's right.
But they're still together.
And he can't remember the names of the ex-wives, but
Exactly.
she can. That was Roberta. Oh, yeah, right.
So they really, again, put a bow around, the things can go really awry.
And you can still get back together.
True love wins out. Exactly.
Well, if you're listening or watching on our YouTube stream and think that we've forgotten one moment, we certainly have not. So after the break, we will get to that moment. So if you don't want to hear that moment, turn down your dial. We're talking about the 1989 film When Harry Met Sally. I'm joined by Callie Crossley and Joyce Kilhaywick. You can call or text us at 617-300-3838. Again, 617-300-3838. When we come back, we're going to get to the big one. The conversation continues.
Literally.
Stay with us.
Many Spaniards were shocked last year when the government announced that it would grant working papers to hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants. That program has run into snags, not enough civil servants to process the massive influx of paperwork, and conservative lawmakers trying to kill it with lawsuits. Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And SNH Construction, committed to building spaces that work and providing professional management to help guide the process. Their podcast, Builder's Notebook, can be heard on all podcast platforms. shconstruction.com. And M&M Skylights, located in Stoneham, installing and servicing the full range of Velux skylights that can help bring air and more natural light into homes. Skylight consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com.
And Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty believes progress happens when people feel secure and exists to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow. Learn more at libertymutual.com.
Your trusted local news, covering the stories that matter to you. Stay informed and stay connected on the GBH News YouTube channel. Subscribe and watch on your phone, tablet, or smart TV. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel and live from the Boston Public Library's Newsfeed Cafe, where you can order a chef salad with oil and vinegar on the side. For this month's Wednesday watch party, we're revisiting When Harry Met Sally, a film of chance encounters, mock turtlenecks, and Carrie Fisher leaving Princess Leia in the dust. Not to mention a romanticized version of Manhattan. No litter, no street noise, no bad weather. It's funny and observant, but also an honest analysis of loneliness, desire, and how people learn to know each other over time. I'm here with Callie Crossley and Joyce Kilhaywick, and we want your take. Do you buy its ideas about friendship and sex? Do Harry and Sally still feel recognizable? Or do they belong to another New York, another era? Our number is 617 300-3838. Again, 617-300-3838. Or you can call, text, or join at our crowd mic. We have Phyllis from Quincy saying, watching When Harry Met Sally has been my New Year's Eve tradition for decades. Nothing is more touching and uplifting than watching this timeless love story while ringing out the old year and ringing in the new. Love it, she says, in all caps. And I know we were all struck by the music in this piece, too.
I am struck by the fact that not only is it just gorgeously selected and arranged. This is Mark Shaman's work, along with some other folk. Harry Connick Jr. apparently
he performed it.
Yes, but also he was very involved in the arrangement. This was actually his big breakout. I didn't realize that. He ended up, winning a Grammy for it. But when they meet, at the very first song in the movie is Our Love Is Here to Stay, which lets you know what's going to happen at the end. When they have this, when they leave each other at the first time and she drives off in New York, the song is Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, which I think is just,
Yeah, so the music cues a lot of what's going to happen.
That's exactly right.
But as you point out, I mean, the Reiner, the use of these songs telegraphs what's going to happen, and I think I remember that the very first song we hear is "It Had to Be You."
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
the first song is I thought it was "I'd Love to Hear."
I think it was underneath.
Well, if you want to understand the whole movie in just a few seconds, here's a montage of some of the iconic music played throughout When Harry Met Sally, featuring Louis Armstrong, Harry Connick Jr., and Frank Sinatra.
It's very clear. Our love is here to stay. I say either, you say neither, and I say neither, either, either, neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off. It had to be you.
That's it.
it had to be you.
Okay, talk about authentic. There's the voice, right?
You.
So
Yeah.
a couple of things are going through my head.
Yeah.
One is how many people now know the words to these songs? I do. I don't
Yes.
know if my daughter does.
Interesting, yeah.
And the use of the classic American songbook here makes this timeless, gives it stature. This is a classic forever romance that undergirds all of what goes on. So I love this.
I just love it.
Sinatra. Oh, my God.
I know at the end. I love the pointed selection of these songs to underscore the moments in the film.
Mhm.
So if you didn't get it, you get it.
The themes, underscoring
Yes.
the themes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've done a lot of talking around it, but one of the reasons that this film endures is for a scene that will go down as probably one of the top 10 scenes ever remembered by people throughout film history. That, of course, is when Harry and Sally are enjoying lunch at New York's Katz's Deli together, when the conversation veers into famously erotic territory after Sally questions Harry's capabilities, so to speak. We're going to play a little bit. FYI, we have edited this just for length, but here we go.
Most women at one time or another have faked it.
Well, they haven't faked it with me.
How do you know?
You don't think that I can tell a difference?
No.
Get out of here.
Oh. Ooh.
Are you okay?
Oh. Oh, God. Ooh. Oh, God. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh, yeah, right there. Oh.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh. Oh, God. Oh. Yes. 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 Oh. Oh, yes. 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 Oh. Yes.
I thought we edited this.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm just going to talk over it now.
Oh.
I'm bright red.
Oh, God.
You are?
Can't talk over the last line.
I'll have what she's having.
I have
The
to
greatest
say,
line.
I mean, we know this scene so well now,
my
even if
God.
you've never watched it. But I laughed so, as we all just did, laughed so hard this
and
morning
again,
watching
and
it.
who knew they put a microphone in my bedroom? I mean, who the heck?
I have to say something that I found out in researching this that I think is hilarious. As the film was about to come out, Rob Reiner screened it at AFI for the crew and other people. All the men were silent, and all the women are screaming.
Oh, that I didn't know. And we should point out for anyone who might not know, that is his mother who delivers that
That's
line.
correct.
Estelle Reiner.
That's
And
correct.
that could be the most famous anecdote in movie history.
It has to be.
It is ranked 33rd on the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes list of
There you
memorable
go.
movie lines.
But that we know,
So
who delivered it.
And it's interesting. It was delivered by Estelle Reiner, but who wanted to just be part of the film so she could spend a day with her son. That's
Yes.
what she told him. Of course, the director, Rob Reiner. But the line was Billy Crystal's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rob Reiner later said that it was like getting a twofer to have Billy Crystal star in your film and be writing some of the lines that he wrote. And then Meg Ryan was pretty embarrassed to do this, and she really had to be talked into it.
Right.
But she did it over and over again.
Yeah, hours and
apparently.
hours, because he told her at the beginning, "You're not really, you're not
You're
giving
not
me
in
the
it
whole
yet."
thing. So give me, I need some more."
That
She
might
was
be
like,
called
"Oh,
sexual
God."
harassment now. I
Oh,
don't
God.
know.
But again, remember, this is now the repeat of the earlier scene in the movie. They're on the same side in a diner, and it shuts down conversation.
Again, a recurring restaurant. And
Yes.
there's yet another restaurant scene. I mean, not
Exactly.
after this, but before this, I believe.
Yes.
But actually, some people did criticize this scene initially when it came out, saying nobody would actually act out that orgasm like that to that extent.
Oh.
But I thought
It's
it was
New York.
fine.
It
It was
anything could-
fine.
yeah.
Well, and the final bit of trivia about
Artistic
this
license.
is not only did Meg Ryan deliver it, but it was also her idea to do it somewhere that was so incongruous. Not in an apartment, not when they're away from people overhearing. She thought, let's just do it out in public.
Well, the cutaways are almost as funny
fabulous.
as the thing. I mean, you've got the guy over there slicing pastrami. He stops. You got it's his.
Well, and Billy Crystal's face.
His face is incredible. His growing awareness of what she is doing and what he is in for. And you can go to New York Hatz's Deli, and they have the table sitting there. You can sit at the actual table.
Yes, I have.
Of course you have.
I think it's one of the best.
I was going to go to another caller, but sadly, I'm not sure we have time.
Well, you got to do the last scene.
Oh yeah. That last scene is genius.
Yes,
I mean, it's beautiful. We got to end
wraps
there.
it all up.
All right, we're going to play it really quickly. This is the final scene from the film, the New Year's Eve party. Here we go.
I'm sorry, Harry. I know it's New Year's Eve. I know you're feeling lonely, but you just can't show up here, tell me you love me, and expect that to make everything all right. It doesn't work this way.
Well, how does it work?
I don't know, but not this way.
How about this way? I love that you get cold when it's 71 degrees out. I love that it takes you an hour and a half to order a sandwich. I love that you get a little crinkle above your nose when you're looking at me like I'm nuts. I love that after I spend a day with you, I can still smell your perfume on my clothes. And I love that you are the last person I want to talk to before I go to sleep at night. And it's not because I'm lonely, and it's not because it's New Year's Eve. I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
Who doesn't? Well, we just heard a couple was engaged to that. Who doesn't want to hear that?
I know.
Somebody say that
I'm
to
so
them.
glad we're ending on that. I'm going to sail on out.
It's so beautiful. It really is.
Well, this was a really super fun Wednesday watch party. Thank you for everybody who came down to the library to be with us today. Thank you for everybody who called in, for everybody who texted, for everybody who tolerated our long clip of Meg Ryan. This has been really fun. Kelly and Joyce, thank you so much. We've been talking about the 1989 film When Harry Met Sally with Callie Crossley and Joyce Kulhawick, Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association, and you can find her reviews on joyceschoices.com. Tune in tomorrow or watch us on the GBH News YouTube channel for writer Tom Perrotta on his new novel, Ghost Town. Plus, Reggie Gibson, the poet laureate of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, joins us to celebrate William Shakespeare's birthday. Thanks to Henry Santoro for curating our Culture Cast. Today's engineer is Bill Piacitelli. The BPL technical and logistics crew is Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, and Pat Lally. Also thanks to the Newsfeed Cafe. If you ever miss us here on the radio, just check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.